Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to the Monday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are glad to have all of you here with us. Why? Well, because we got a great show planned for you. As Bob Spearing from MUFON is here, good friend of this show, and we're glad to have Mere Dirty Filth will be here for a quick cartoon as well. But the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you, and I love it when you guys are here, including SJ in the gold medal position, Christine Lynn with a silver, Michael Fontaine with a bronze medal tonight. Look who's in fourth place, Race Fan. Wow, Race Fan. What happened, buddy? What happened? Where are you? Tim Mothman and his goatee, two separate entities. How you doing? Kitty Caddywhack, Michael Morris, Simon the Likeable, and Eternity Eternal. Nice to see you all. Brown Dwarf and Little Timmy James. What's happening, buddy? Hey, Giannis Roast, how are you? Good to see you again. Giannis will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Matt Carter, Karen and the Woo Train. Good to see you both. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth, people. It's got to be smooth. Any type of rigidness or roughness, it's never comfortable doing a radio show. It feels rigid. So we need that lube from Mel to make sure we get through this show nice and smooth. Thank you, Mel, for taking your duties very seriously. All right, Flat Six, good to see you. Lee the Bee and Monica, how are you? Continuing on with our roll call, Ozzy, tuning in early today. Les Paul Holland strumming away on his Gibson collection down in Australia. Excuse me. Paramarv, nice to see you. How you doing? And Robert Lamoth, good to have you here. Scrolling on down, oh, Cosmic Joe, hi, how are you? And thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much, Joe, and welcome back to tonight's show. Continuing on with our roll call, Cam Kaseka, how you doing? Good to see you, JSCO. Number 34 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. He's got a 1.96 goals against average in the preseason. This guy's like a brick wall in net. Going to make a big contract over that. Total big contract. Thomas Rock, how you doing, my friend? S. Vermet, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, there's Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Canna Chef Chris, where have you been hiding? It's been weeks since we've seen you. Good to have you here, my friend. As we scroll on down, there's Noble Patrick. Good to have you here. Yep, the Birkenstock wearing Deidre is back, which means she's got a whole champagne glass filled with quinoa or quinoa that she's going to be chipping on during this show. Oh, there's spinach on the side for garnish too. And a couple of dried cranberries, just two though. Moving on. Palladium, my man. Pam Harris. T-Bone, the big star. How are you guys? Hi, Paula Fost. Operation Shutdown. Good to see you. And who is next on our list? Purple-haired Pixie Lara. Digger Dog. Nice to see you both. As we scroll on down, there's Lex Diaz. Necessary Dialogue. Natalie Rankla. How are you? Terrence Willis is back. Terrence Willis will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we're talking UFOs all night long from MUFON. Bob Spearing is here. We're going to have a great show. We are in roll call right now saying hello to Al Garay over on Twitch, who did 500 push-ups in 2 minutes to jack his arms for tonight's show. Hi, Jessica S. Science Melinda, super crazy. Rich Buddy, nice to see you all. Thank you, Area 53, for another great super chat. Your hair is looking fantastic tonight, by the way. Thank you very much, buddy. Much love to you. And J Truth Seeker, nice to see you. And who's next here? Yennefer with a soft J. Good to see you. Science Melinda again. And you know what? Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Once again, our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show lined up for you tonight from MUFON. Bob Spearing is going to be here talking all things UFO, and it's always a good time when Bob is here. He's a great friend of this show. Then in hour number 3, we got Swamp Dweller kicking things off, followed up by Tim James, who will have the UFO report from in studio. All right, let's get right to it, shall we? Because I love it when Bob Spearing is here. It's no nonsense UFO talk. And this is a guy who graduated with a bachelor's degree in communications with journalism and film production from Fordham University. Bob retired from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey after 34 years recently as well. And you know what? The one thing about Bob is he loves his UFOs. Joined MUFON in 2014 as a field investigator, previously been national director of both Spain and India, and led MUFON's special assignment team. Bob has long been involved with various special projects, including the Mars team, the Pine Bush, New York UFO Museum, the MUFON member social network, and Observer Network. He does it all. He literally does it all, but he loves his history as well. Currently working on some stories about the late Leo Sprinkle, and he's also up to date on the current UFO situation. Bob Spearing, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my man. How are you?
Very good, Dave. Thank you for having me back again. I always appreciate coming on. Good to see you.
Dude, love it when you're here. And you know we should, because you treat us like gold, Bob. You're always very upfront and forthcoming, and you're kind of like family around here, I would say.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. You're like family to me too, Dave.
Good.
Even though you're in Canada and I'm in the United States, you're still like family to me.
Well, you know what? The love transcends all sorts of borders, my friend. It transcends. That's all that really matters about it. You know what? Bob, there's a lot of UFO news we're going to get to tonight and everything like that. But first, for our audience who may not be familiar with you in radio land out there, how did you get started in 2014? What piqued your interest?
Oh, I had an interest since 1965. I remember the Great Northeastern Blackout of November 1965. I was 6 years old. We had candles in the house. Next morning, my uncle came over, and I'm in Jersey. And he goes, "They think UFOs took out the Clay Power Station at Niagara Falls." And that's what got me started. Then I started buying the UFO comic books, Saga magazine in the 70s. In the 80s, I had a UFO sighting in a very remote part of Jersey while camping. It was a pink orb over a lake late at night. It was just doing these fantastical maneuvers, and it was definitely not a star because it was
Bob,
raining.
I'm just going to get you to bring your microphone a little bit closer to your face because it seems to be cutting out a little bit on us.
Okay, let me just make sure. How am I now?
You sound good. Yeah,
Okay,
there.
yep. I saw this pink orb just doing fantastical maneuvers over this lake in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey, and then it just shot off like at incredible speed. So that's pretty much what hooked me. In 2014, I actually found out a guy wrote a book about orange orbs, and I says, "My God, other people have seen this thing that I saw over this lake," and I decided to join MUFON. I had two other relatively modest UFO sightings. Besides that, I was on a train going across the Jersey Meadowlands towards North New Jersey, bright, cloudless blue sky. I look out the window, and it was this silver orb, a sphere just pacing the train at like 60 miles an hour. It was maybe 1,000 feet up, maybe 1,000 feet high, and it had to be about 6 feet in diameter. The weirdest thing though that ever happened to me was I was driving down from Quebec. I was going through the Adirondack Mountains. I'm the only one on the highway. There's nothing going on there. It's like a dead spot. And there was a clearing in the woods, and I saw a cliff off to my right. And I saw what looked like this square object the size of two tractor trailers together with triangle wheels climbing up the side of this cliff. And I never saw anything like that before in my entire life. I did a U-turn to go back to find it, but it was gone. So I've never been abducted or anything like that, but forensically, my background working at a railroad, I used to investigate railroad accidents. Most field investigators at MUFON have some sort of forensic background. I also was a film production major, so I do a lot of photo analysis from MUFON, and I'm very much into the historical aspects of ufology. I prefer older cases to the newer cases, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. No, and I think that's absolutely wonderful what you do in for MUFON because a lot of these older cases, especially with the new trend of it being very popular to be in ufology, I think a lot of these older cases are a little bit forgotten, to be blunt. And it's people like you who are helping bring the life back into them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a patterns guy, and so I'm always looking for patterns. And when you go back through the historical record and you see that as far back as 1898, people were seeing black triangles, you have to wonder, are they really U.S. military or is there something else going on? And there's just so many patterns, that you, witnesses see and draw the same stuff over and over again. There's hot spots all over the world. There's certain waves in our CMS 138,000 case database where during one season you'll see a certain type of craft. We never see orbs in March. It's like they're down for maintenance or something. Uh, but there's so many patterns to be investigated, and the older cases sometimes have much more detail than the more modern cases.
Right. What are some of your favorite cases that you've got to investigate over the years?
Well, my favorite one has always been the FedEx plane flying over Mexico towards the U.S. border. They were taking auto parts in 2019 from a Ford plant in Mexico City to a Ford destination in Tennessee, and a glowing yellow orb came down on the co-pilot side and began accompanying the plane for 33 minutes at 500 miles per hour. And the most interesting part of the case was that the pilot, Eric Delgado, who flew military flights over Iraq and was with FedEx for 20 years, very qualified guy. He turned the lights off in the cockpit, pulled out his camera, and began filming the object for 4 minutes. And to prove that it was out there, he panned down to his TCAS anti-collision radar, and it was invisible to the radar. At the American border, it made an abrupt right turn and took off, but not cross the border. So what we eventually concluded was that it was an actual craft surrounded by a plasma field. Why is that important? Well, right now, the Chinese and the Americans are experimenting with covering their fighter jets with plasma because plasma absorbs radar signals. So if an F-35 is going into Iran to take something out, the missile array on the ground's radar will not see the F-35. However, they're just experimenting with this stuff now. Back in 2019, who had spherical craft that they could wrap in plasma that would be invisible to an anti-collision radar, like with this FedEx plane? But the oddity is the object would not cross into the United States. And I always wondered two questions. One, was the American military technology at the border so sophisticated that it would have been able to see this plasma encased craft? And the second question I always ask myself was it really auto parts on the FedEx plane, or was it something else? And that's why the FedEx plane was being surveilled for 30 minutes. Uh-oh, I don't hear you. I don't.
There we go. There we go. It's sort of weird how these UFOs just seem to know that there are strange things happening, Bob, on these craft. Whether they're carrying military weapons, whether they're carrying something else, that always makes me wonder how they just seem to know.
Yeah, I've always been suspicious of the Malaysian Flight 370 that disappeared over the Indian Ocean. I don't know how many people know this, but at the last minute, a very large box was added onto that plane that was not on the manifest. So, what was it that they loaded on that plane that may have, cost everybody their lives and made that plane disappear off the face of the earth?
Well, I still think it has something to do with the fact that there were 40 Chinese
Yes.
electronic warfare people on there. We were talking about this the other night because Robert McNeil, I don't know if you know the name or not, but he's the gentleman who took out Osama bin Laden with SEAL Team 6.
Hmm.
He posted a really weird tweet about a week ago that basically said that, you know, flight MH370 was a warning to China, you know, and there's nothing more than that. And it really made me wonder what that means. And you could go on his X account and actually read that tweet. I mean, the guy's got a lifetime, pass for freedom.
Right.
You just don't punish an American hero like that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I know somebody who knows him who literally said, dude, you're going to get yourself in trouble with the people if you keep up that kind of stuff. Right. And he just doesn't care. He doesn't care. And what I remember about that flight, MH370 in 2014, hard to believe it's 10 years ago already,
Yep. Yep.
is two things. As a journalist, this is kind of what stood out to me about it. Number one, the cell phones back then weren't waterproof. And back then, the minute your phone got wet and turned off, your voicemail immediately kicked in. And yet these phones, according to family members, would ring and ring and ring, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before going to voicemail.
Hmm.
Well, that signifies the phone is active
Hmm.
and nobody's answering it. Number two was on Facebook, where in the olden days, before Facebook started updating for the sake of updating and so on and so forth, You used to have a little blue dot to show you. Now it's green, but you used to have a little blue dot beside your face, and when you went offline, the blue dot would disappear. Well, these people, some of them, still had the blue dot showing that they were logged into their Facebook account. Well, if their phone is dead and they're not using an app, how would they be appearing on
Right.
Facebook?
Right. I mean, Dave, I don't trust anything anymore. Like, these assassination attempts, these disappearing planes. It's like, you know, the possible disinformation of UFO witnesses in front of Congress. I mean, you see it with your own eyes, and you just got that gut feeling you can't trust anything that's going on right now.
Well, what do you trust? And for our audience who's trying to figure out this story, what can they trust?
Well, I trust witnesses. I trust a good video. I trust good drawings. I trust good trace evidence, and MUFON has gotten its fair share of good trace evidence, especially recently. Do I trust government whistleblowers or the regular people you see? Uh, like Lou and you know Harold Putoff and all of those. I don't know if I necessarily uh, trust a lot of what's going on with people like that. I believe some of them may be sincere, but it's my own investigations are what I trust, and it's my own patterns that I see, and I think that MUFON's a very legitimate organization as far as the people within it. I know most of the field investigators around the world, and I think they're all highly qualified. And I think that if you want people investigating UFO reports, there's some really great MUFON field investigators that do a great job.
Yeah, there's always, always good stories out there, but you're one of the few out there that will actually trust an eyewitness over this so-called empirical evidence that we seem to need for so many others in the UFO world. Why do you trust that over, say, a person who is, you know, or let me rephrase that. Why do you trust a person and their report over, say, somebody who is, you know, not showing empirical evidence, like, or a scientist who doesn't believe in that, Bob?
Right. Well, let me start by saying witnesses can be notoriously unreliable. When they say they saw the object in the south, they were really looking north. When they say it was 10 o'clock at night precisely on the 27th, it was 8 o'clock on the 28th. So they can be really, really unreliable. But at the same time, again, it's patterns. I have heard and read literally tens of thousands of reports in 10 years, and the witnesses a lot of times are always telling the same story. And when you hear the same story, not dozens of times, but hundreds of times, you know that they're all experiencing some sort of similar phenomena, especially with the abduction phenomena. It always starts off the same way with the blue and white, orbs in the bedroom. Then they're, carried out through a window that was closed. They're laying out on the silver table. The small grays are around them. The big gray comes in, goes face to face with them. They experience some sort of sexual, arousal. Then the needles go into their belly button. Then suddenly they're back in their bed facing the wrong way, wearing somebody else's clothes. I mean, when you hear this story from witnesses over decades, from all over the world, you have to say that there's validity to it. And that these people aren't looking for fame or fortune. Sometimes they're looking for help, which is why we have an experience or resource team. So it's patterns. When I see people telling the same story all the time, and in many cases I can quantify it with other evidence, I would tend to trust them before I trust somebody in front of Congress.
Why do you think, Bob, that so many people within the UFO community have turned their back on experiencers?
I don't know. It's a very unfortunate thing because it's an incredibly dark and almost demonic experience, and it hasn't been going on for decades. Long before we considered these grays to be abducting people. I mean, you can go back 500 years with the incubus and the succubus, and the bedroom encounters. Uh, it- it's I think it's a phenomenon that needs to be studied more. As a matter of fact, at last year's symposium, when I was presenting the cases of interest, I did a whole section on skull drillers. There's a phenomenon where these hooded figures are coming into people's bedrooms. It's the typical sleep paralysis. The person's awake, they see what's happening, they can't move. And the entity uses some sort of tool and usually drills into their skull behind their left ear. And we found almost 10 cases of the exact same phenomena. And what was weird was that 3 of them took place within 65 miles of each other in Australia, near Sydney, and 2 of them took place within weeks of each other, less than 100 miles away in Missouri and Oklahoma. So you have to say those people aren't making it up because they've never even met each other, and we're getting, a specific type of case where somebody is being drilled into the very specifically left side of the skull behind the ear over and over again. So you guys say, what's up with that?
Well, I mean, we could say what's up with it as we got about 3 minutes to go, but there is a reality to it. I mean, complete strangers who have no reason in wanting to see these things, let alone, become a witness or an experiencer, are having these issues happen. And they're describing the same thing. And these are people, Bob, for the most part, who aren't in the UFO community.
No.
They, they aren't people who are, you know, on Facebook continuously, in 40 or 50 different UFO or alien encounter groups. These are everyday people who just want to know what they saw.
Yeah, and when you get 3 reports of the same type of abduction or bedroom intrusion scenario within 65 miles of each other in Australia on a continent that's 3,000 miles wide, y that's just too much of a coincidence. That's a targeted mission for a certain reason in a certain area or concerning certain people.
Very true. Very true. I mean, it is something that is very weird when you can get complete strangers telling you the same story from different parts of the world. I
Mhm.
mean, you've seen it enough with your time in MUFON where you'll have somebody in Australia who sees, say, some sort of humanoid looking being, and then a day later get a report from somebody in, Washington State who has the same encounter with a humanoid being as well. I mean, that is nothing short of ridiculous, Bob.
All the time, all the time. You get the similar reports spread out across thousands of miles within days of each other. Another thing, when we did the Project Aquarius digital library, we did a drawings gallery of almost 10,000 UFO witness reports in our database. My God, these people are drawing the same thing over and over again. And while we got an enormous amount of triangles and people drawing the triangles exactly the same way, the one that was really, really freaky to me were the chevrons, the V-shaped objects, because it's always the same story. The bottom have these huge lights. People will draw that they're blue lights. People will draw that they're green lights, but over and over again. And the people always say they seem to glide. They were absolutely silent, and they were semi-transparent. People all over the world are reporting semi-transparent chevrons, where they can actually see the clouds, like as if the the chevron has a projector above it, projecting on a screen on its bottom the clouds above it to make it look invisible. But people all over the world are seeing the same phenomenon and drawing the same thing. We have hundreds of chevron drawings from people, and they all look the same. Absolutely look
Right?
the same.
Right, Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Hard to believe we are already through the first half hour here of Spaced Out Radio. Man, it's going quick. It's going so quick. Bob Spearing from MUFON is here talking about UFO experiencers and much more on the big show tonight. We are going to have Bob the next 90 minutes on the program, and it's going to be great. I promise you that. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Hey, Bob, I hate to ask, but your headset just keeps cutting in and out. I don't know what it is, but do you
I'm going to
have
switch plugs.
Okay. Yeah. Cannot hear you. Cannot hear you on that one. Doo-doo-doo. Oh yeah, T-Bone. I hope they choose the Yeti as well.
Testing
Can't
1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm getting a really strong signal on my end. Could it be internet?
You're sounding better.
Okay. The only other thing I can do if this doesn't work at the next break, I'll try to use the camera mic and don't use headphones at all. I don't know what the sound quality will be like.
Yeah. This one has you a little bit quiet, but we can turn your volume up on that.
Yeah, I turned up the volume as much as.
Yeah, a lot of times with those gaming microphones, what they do, Bob, is they noise cancel out certain noises.
Right. Two. I don't know if that'll help. The little black thing. Does that sound any clearer?
That sounds like you're really hot. Pull it back from your mouth just a little bit.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2.
No, that's too quiet. What's your volume level? Let me check your volume level here. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm up as high as I can go on my end.
Okay, let me. You want to talk for me a second?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Bob Spearing from MUFON. I'm talking on a headphone set for Dave and at 100% volume. If I go the
Yeah, it's not working very well, Bob.
What do we do? I have echo cancellation, reduce mic background noise. Oh, hold on. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. I just found mic volume in the settings. Is this any louder?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. All right. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Leave it just like that. You're sounding much better.
Okay. Yeah, the settings had a mic volume, so I set that one up to 100%.
Yeah. All right.
Are we on where the audience can hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to mention to you before you mentioned Leo Sprinkle. I was actually working on the Leonard Stringfield diaries. However, there's a very interesting connection to Leo Sprinkle concerning somebody we both know that I'd like to get into it. So yeah, right now we're redacting the Leonard Stringfield diaries.
I got the two confused.
Yeah, I did. I used to too. You know.
Yeah.
And there's some weird stuff. Not only reports wise, but actually the interactions between the researchers back then. There was a lot of distrust between some very famous people who, on the surface, were working together, and in the background, they didn't like each other or they didn't trust each other. There's some interesting stories I could tell you about Stringfield and Hynek and Donald Rumsfeld that are coming up in the diaries.
Sure.
And I have to tell you about an android that may have been in U.S. custody in 1969. So.
All right, we could do that. All right, we got about a minute here. Got about a minute. I've been dealing with damn allergies this year, and they just will not let go.
Yeah, I've been having an ear problem in my right ear. It's like it gives you a headache and it spreads like into your neck. And I've been to a couple of ENTs, and they tell me it's something called eustachian tube dysfunction. It's like my
Oh,
eustachian tube's not opening and closing properly. The tube that goes from your ear down into your throat, but
yeah.
it really messes up your head. It's
Apparently, if you massage them, it
mhm,
will loosen up the gunk in there.
mhm. They gave me exercises to do where you gotta
Yeah.
really press in and
Yeah.
pull forward.
Hold on right there, Bob. We're going to come back here. 1 second here. All right, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate turning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, I want to remind everybody that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From MUFON, we have Bob Spearing here. We're going to get into some history of UFO sightings, research from Leonard Stringfield to Leo Sprinkle and everything in between. Bob, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my man. How you doing?
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me. So
You
let's
have been working diligently recently for MUFON about Leonard Stringfield. For people who may not know who Leonard Stringfield is, please give us a brief description.
Okay, Leonard Stringfield in the 1950s ran a civilian UFO corps where they would report into the government if people saw UFOs. He also did the CRIFO newsletter, and he wrote the book Situation Red, and he was considered the greatest crash retrieval expert in UFO history. He worked from the 1950s until his death in the 1990s. And what was very intriguing about Stringfield was that he made a lot of CIA contacts and NSA contacts, and they trusted him. And he had a secretary who, for many, many years, kept a running diary of all of his activities. And we at MUFON came into possession of those diaries several years ago. There's 65 of them, and it's a total of 12,000 pages. And some of it is so sensitive that before we could release them to the public in our Project Aquarius library, we actually had to put together a redacting team so that we can take out sensitive information. And just to give you an idea of the type of stuff that we have to redact, there was one CIA bureau head who had told Leonard Stringfield some interesting stories, and Leonard Stringfield wanted to use them on a radio show, and the CIA bureau chief wrote to Len Stringfield and said, Len, and this is a quote, Len, if they're not afraid to kill Kennedy, they're not afraid to kill a CIA bureau chief. Please do not post that on the radio. And Stringfield never did. But this diaries, they actually contain the names of all of these contacts and people that he worked with. So we had to redact a lot of personal information because some of these people are still alive and we don't want to put them in jeopardy.
There is real threats out there, Bob, for a lot of people who believe that, there is a real big cover up with this. And for some people, it could mean opening your mouth means the end of your life. Is that really prevalent in the UFO world, or is that a conspiracy theory?
Um, Over the years, there have been a number of people who researched UFOs and died mysteriously. There was one person who was in contact with Leonard Stringfield, who they found bloated in Chesapeake Bay, and his sailboat was up against the 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 shore. A couple of days later, it was found. Another thing was that uh, there's a very interesting interaction where Stringfield's diarist actually talks about Colby, the CIA head, and the CIA was investigating UFOs in the 1970s. And this little blurb was that George H.W. Bush was being recalled as ambassador from Peking to replace Colby. And as you know, Colby died mysteriously in a kayaking incident a few years later. The second part of that sentence was, and to replace Schlesinger, I think it was, who's the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld was going to be replacing Schlesinger. Uh, and then the third part of the sentence said, Rumsfeld is friends with Hynek, and Rumsfeld is going to brief Hynek on what the CIA knows about UFOs. This is in the Stringfield Diaries. This is 1978. So there, we think of all of the skullduggery going on right now. It was going on back in the 70s, and it was going back in the 50s too. So I definitely think that there is legitimacy to the fact that some people ended up, in the river, so to speak, who were investigating UFOs. Definitely.
Those cases that were seen back then, they seem so much more prevalent than what people are reporting today. Why are those cases seem so much more credible than what we are seeing today?
I think for a number of reasons. One, whoever the visitors are acting in a much more low key way because today everybody's got a cell phone that can take a picture of stuff. So you're not going to get the same type of cases that you got in the 1950s where they didn't care if you saw them because nobody was going to believe you. The second thing is that the amount of cases that come in today to all the different UFO bureaus are so much more vast in number than what was being reported in the 1950s, that people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they could go more into depth on these cases. Today, a MUFON Field Investigator, for example, has like 60 to 90 days to get a case closed before it starts going cold. And if you can't get in touch with the witness, or they freak out, they shut up on you, you're not going to get the same quality of cases that you got back in the day. The reports back in the day are much, much more uh, colorful and more full of detail and actually more believable. In my opinion, I'll give you one case. We all I mentioned it before. We all know that in the 70s and 80s, when grays became prevalent, people would started reporting that there were blue and white orbs would come into the bedroom, and that would start the abduction. Stringfield got a letter from a woman in 1965 where she was looking out the window. She saw this neon blue craft about 75 feet away from the back of her house. She gets her husband up. He sees the craft. There were reports that night, apparently, to the police. This is in Mount Healthy, Ohio, I believe was the name of the town. And she was so upset that her daughter puts her to bed. In the middle of the night, she starts seeing blue and white orbs. This is before anybody ever heard of blue and white orbs. She sees these blue and white orbs, and then faces appear in the orbs, and they look like alien gray faces in these orbs. And she actually drew pictures of them, which we have. But the scariest, creepiest thing is when she sees them, she hears them say telepathically, "We've made contact." And this is like the earliest case that I've ever been able to find of orbs in bedrooms. And it seems that if this was, patient zero, for example, contact was made, and now it's a constant in ufology at the beginning of an abduction in a bedroom scenario. So that's the type of really, really in-depth, interesting stories that we were getting back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, at least in the Stringfield diaries.
Bob, do you think that social media has a giant play on the reason why we don't get these Betty and Barney Hill type cases, these Calvin Parker or Travis Walton or Whitley Strieber type cases anymore?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, I join a lot of those UFO Facebook groups, and some people will report some really, really interesting cases, but they don't report it to MUFON where it could be investigated. They report it on Facebook, and 2 hours later, their incredible story is so far down the thread that nobody will ever see it again. So I think basically Facebook actually masks people's ability to get their cases, heard and seen. They'll get like 5 thumbs up for, a great, post, and then that post is lost forever and nothing ever gets investigated. So I actually think that even though you have this plethora of Facebook groups and hundreds of thousands of people following stuff in these groups, I actually think it's a detriment because a lot of good cases just go down the drain in a matter of 2 or 3 hours.
And it's kind of sad the way that works. There's no real, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, romantic type UFO stories anymore, whether the aliens are evil or whether, they're helpers in situations. We just don't seem to have that situation anymore. And I think with social media and places like YouTube and like you mentioned, Facebook, I think it's really taken the romanticism out of the topic because people today are all about they want their hardcore facts within 6 minutes.
Mhm, mhm. And a lot of the cases are th- we get a lot of abduction cases, but a lot of ordinary cases are they're short on detail, and it's just somebody saying I saw nocturnal lights, 2 miles away, which could be anything. Or I saw a triangle and it had white lights at each point and a red center light, and it's the same. It's almost mundane that people are reporting the same things. There's no landing where they come out, they try to make contact, like you get all of these cases in the 1950s, like Adamski, whether you believe him or not. Uh, but yeah, the type of report that we get today is less less colorful than the ones in the past.
How do we change that? How do we get it back to a good high quality witness? Because if I look, let's say over the last 5 years, outside of Chris Bledsoe, who else is there?
Yeah, well, there's not too many heroes on the horizon the way it was back in the day. All right, people that were willing to write these really good books and analyze things. Today, it's all television personalities, people who want to be famous. They care less about your case. I mean, there's certain cases that really deserve in-depth research, like Skinwalker Ranch and stuff like that. But overall, it's pretty pedestrian what's going on. People just want content for television shows, and they're not really giving people an opportunity to do anything other than a 2-minute soundbite about what happened to them. So I think it's media. I think media is actually destroying the UFO field because it's all about product today and taking somebody's case and just minimizing it to a 2-minute clip, you know?
Well, I think you're very right there on everything. I mean, anything UFO now seems to be getting blown out of proportion. There really is no in-depth digging on these stories anymore. Going back to Leonard Stringfield, do you have a story that you could share with us about his files that you're working on?
Oh yeah, I could tell you a couple of stories. Probably the most interesting thing that we found so far was a guy possibly from NASA made contact with Stringfield 1978 through Jerome Clark, actually, the Fortean researcher. And this guy wanted to talk to Leonard Stringfield about what he knew about a 1948 crash. And he doesn't really ask which crash in 19, were we talking about Roswell? Were we talking about the Frank Scully Aztec crash that like got panned as being a hoax but may not have been? Or are we talking about the Mexican crash? But anyway, they retrieved what they believe was an android, and it was human looking, approximately 30 years old looking, white pasty skin, and the android was still in United States custody and hadn't aged in 1969. And in 1969 and 1970, the United States Air Force military doctors at certain Air Force bases performed a series of tests on this android. The android was able to lift things with his mind, telekinesis, had incredible strength. They exposed this android to plutonium, and he only became mildly ill. It was enough plutonium to kill a human being. They would feed him cyanide. This is bizarre. They would feed him cyanide to get his physical reactions, and he would get a mild upset stomach, where it was enough to kill a typical human being. And they said that his brain actually included a nuclear reactor. The scariest part of the story, Dave, is that Stringfield actually has the medical reports of the researchers, what they did to him, the names of the doctors, the names of the military bases. And this is the big discussion we're having right now with MUFON, is how much of this stuff do we need to redact, at least at this point, because we're not quite sure what we have, but it's astounding, the medical reports. All right. And that's probably the weirdest one we've gotten so far to date.
No kidding.
That
No
yeah.
kidding. For Stringfield, how did he come upon his reports? How did they
He,
report to him back then?
he had CIA and NSA connections. He had connections at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I don't know if you know this, but after he wrote Situation Red, he actually wrote a series of, I believe it's 11 crash retrieval pamphlets. They're like maybe 40 pages each, and he documents all different alleged crashes, the amount of evidence to go with each, but he managed to put it into an 11 pamphlet series. These pamphlets each now are out of print. They're worth like almost $100 on eBay. But he has an astounding collection of possible UFO crash reports. I mean, I'm talking maybe hundreds. All right, are in his volumes. So as we're going through now, we're seeing things that weren't in his pamphlets. All right, he had so much material that he didn't even use half of it. And just as a side note, I was on a radio show last week, a local Scranton, Pennsylvania radio show, and it was a show about everything. They just had me on as the UFO guest, but the guy who was before me chimed in and said, "Hey, I want to tell you a really interesting story about my mom, who was a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital in Wilkes-Barre around 1950. That 6 little green alien bodies were brought into the emergency room, taken down to the morgue, and then MPs came in, had all the medical staff in the emergency room sign non-disclosure agreements and were threatened. And then they took these 6 little bodies out to wherever they went. And the guy said to me, he goes, "You know, my mom wasn't crazy. She was the head nurse at the hospital, and she's told me this story till the day she died." So I believe that there are tons and tons of crash retrievals throughout history since the 1940s, beginning with the 1940s.
Incredible. Incredible. His ties to the government, was that so they had somebody who can investigate these stories, these claims? How did that
No,
work?
uh-oh. Can you hear me? I froze on my end.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
good.
Okay. Um, yeah, these people didn't want to be identified. As a matter of fact, a lot of them said, "Would you please not use my name?" But at one point, there was a whistleblower who actually reported him to the FBI, and he somehow was able to get hold of his FBI file, and the FBI did a very, very lengthy investigation into him, trying to find out who his contacts were. I believe he even had to go to the FBI office in Cincinnati and talk to some agents there, but he never gave up who his sources were. So he worked with people who were willing to risk their lives to tell him what was going on, and they used to beg him not to let anybody know who. The scary thing about the diaries is that those people's names are mentioned, and that's why we have to like black them out before this stuff can be released.
Bob Spearing is with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Bob, we got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. You know, speaking of Leonard Stringfield, but there's also Leo Sprinkle out there, who is somebody who is very revered within the community, and his contacts and the way he investigated UFOs. What was the biggest difference you think between Stringfield and Sprinkle?
Sprinkle was more um, he was more sympathetic to, like doing the hypnosis sessions with abductees and stuff. I think he looked at it from a more humane way of treating witnesses and abductees than Stringfield. Stringfield was a nuts and bolts guy. Stringfield was looking for physical evidence. Stringfield, used military and government contacts to try to get the facts. Sprinkle was more, tell me about the experience type of operator. Well, he was a very, very nice guy. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you that Katie Page, a mutual friend of ours, was very good friends with him. And she used to talk to him a lot about her Rocky Mountain Ranch experience as a child in the 1970s with the voices and the boxes appear, with very high strangeness case. And yesterday, I came across the Leo Sprinkle report in Leonard Stringfield's diaries. It was co-written by Leo Sprinkle and a person named Dell, who I'd never heard of, last name Dell. And it's a 31-page report, and it's Katie Page's case, and it's all about how Leo Sprinkle interviewed all of the different children that were involved in that ranch with all of the strange goings on, but no names were mentioned. They didn't give the names of the children to protect them. But it was Katie's case, and I was astonished to see this 31-page Leo Sprinkle report in Leonard Stringfield's diaries.
The fact that they were so highly respected in this field, with Dr. J. Allen Hynek as well, pretty much the head of the Project Blue Book, you know, where did these guys go? I mean, for instance, I guess where I'm going with this question is we've got about 90 seconds left, and my brain is definitely moving slower than the time is right now. Hynek was never a believer. He didn't want to believe. It was the people he talked to that made him believe that there was something to this. Were Stringfield and Sprinkle the same way?
Yes, Sprinkle, I think, believed the experiencer stories, but they're as different as apples and oranges. Stringfield was a nuts and bolts guy all the way through. Interestingly enough, Stringfield didn't trust Hynek. As late as 1975, in one of the diaries, he was still considering whether or not Hynek was still on the government payroll. So that was a very interesting thing that came out in the diaries. They had a love-hate relationship, Stringfield and Hynek. Sometimes Hynek would stand them up going on a radio show. The Hynek would not tell him about a UFO conference that Stringfield would have wanted to speak at. So, and Stringfield didn't like Hynek's secretary. So that's some of the human side of things that we got into with the Stringfield diaries. The
Right.
acrimony between a lot of these UFO researchers. It's startling, actually. And actually, before we get cut off, Ruppelt, all right, had some issues. Ruppelt, though, believed that Hynek was becoming a believer, going
And
from
on that note, we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Bob Spearing is here on Spaced Out Radio from MUFON. More UFO stories and much more to come when we return on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
Hey, Bob, we're going to have to try and switch over on the microphone there.
All right, hold on.
I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm just going to take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
Be right back, everybody. All right, Bobby, let's try this out here.
Hey, listen, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound way better, dude.
Do I? Okay, so I don't know what the problem is, but I got to hear you with my earphones
Yeah, that's
on,
fine.
and I can talk to you with the camera mic. Okay, very good.
You sound much better. Much better. Thank you. I apologize for that, but thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for telling me. These are brand new headphones. They're supposed to be very clear, but apparently they're not.
Yeah.
How many years you been doing this?
November 30th, it'll be 10 years.
Wow. Now, August of 14 was when I became a field investigator. So I just passed 10 years.
Yeah, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
All right, we got about 45 seconds. Big thank you tonight to Mr. Coffee, T-Bone, Richard, Matt, Area 53, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very much. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to wear it. Yeah, because we got nice stuff. T-Bone figured that part out. Yeah, he just bought a couple of shirts. So, all right, here we go. 5 seconds, everybody. Hold on tight. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Uberty. Uberty is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on SOR. Bob Spearing from MUFON is here. We've changed his microphone up a bit, so we'll get him a little bit clearer here. Bob, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate when you take time for us.
Thank you very much also for always having me and being so nice to me.
Bob, I want to just ask you something a little bit controversial here before we continue. And it technically involves MUFON, but not directly. And that is in the criminal case against Jan Harzan, the former executive director of MUFON, who was arrested in Huntington Beach, California, a couple of years ago, trying to lure a child. And he was recently convicted, sentenced to prison for a couple of years. You know, he was in there when you started in MUFON, and for a number of years. I know this has been a very sad case for MUFON because people had no clue, no idea. And the good news about it was nobody else from MUFON was involved in this whatsoever. Just your overall thoughts as a director for MUFON on this story.
Well, you know, you never know who you're working with. You think you know people sometimes. It's like I worked directly for him on several projects at that time. And he was a really nice guy, really smart guy, impeccably dressed, very professional. But I'm talking to him on the phone like the day after he got arrested. Nobody knew he had been arrested yet. And it was like business as usual. And it's like I never would have known. All right. And he caused great harm to MUFON. I don't think in a way we've recovered our our respect in the field because of what he did. I still sometimes wonder if we're like a little shunned by, news networks and stuff because it gave us such a black eye. But if you think about, MUFON's been in business since 1969, and every organization will have, their scandals. We had the Ventry thing. We had the Bigelow thing. We had way back somebody who's selling hypnosis sessions. But like over 55 years, we've only had like 4 major problems, and all of those problems were dealt with very swiftly and severely once we found out. Yeah, he gave us a black eye. As a human being, I thought he was a great guy, and it was really, disappointing what happened, and it was devastating to a couple of the people that had worked with him for years. So, the board got together within 48 hours, and they had him gone after that. So my understanding is he could have pleaded. He decided to go for it, and he lost the case. They charged him with 2 counts, and I thought he was going to get like 5 to 8, but you told me you think it may have been, what, 31 months, something like that?
Something along those lines is what I'm hearing, yes.
Yeah, so I guess, he compromised and took some sort of plea. But yeah, what a great disappointment for MUFON. Shame on him. As I really admired the guy, and I was sorely disappointed when this happened.
You mentioned that MUFON has kind of earned a black eye because of this. The one thing that I have been, and Bob, I have been very critical at times of MUFON and some of the things that they do, but I've always extended praise when praise was necessary.
Mhm.
And I think this is one of those scenarios, and I really wish Dave McDonald and the rest of the board would have done a press release on this. I think it's very important for people to know, and I have stated this on top of a mountain over the last number of months since this case came out, that this is not a MUFON thing. People shouldn't blame MUFON for this happening.
Of course.
I'm just I guess where I'm disappointed about it was that MUFON, even under Harzan, when I came into the field, it's like they have this attitude that if we don't talk about it, it hasn't happened. Whether it was Ventry, whether it was Bigelow, whether it's now Harzan. And I think, and I think at times, and I mean this with critical love here, that MUFON needs to put out a press release and just talk about some of this, because you guys have a great team. You have incredible people who love and are dedicated to this field. And why not put out a press release just stating to the public, this has nothing to do with MUFON. All MUFON members have been cleared of any other wrongdoing, and the police are not investigating any other member of MUFON on this. This was a soul sick person who was doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Press releases have not been MUFON's forte, in the past. But that is, I think that's a really good idea. Dave's away, but when he comes back, I'll sit, not this Tuesday, next Tuesday, I can bring it up. But if he's out of town, then, there's not much I can do about it until he gets back. I think that's a good idea, because there was nobody else from MUFON involved. It's like the secretary in the next room didn't know what he was doing. All right. So, but it did impugn our reputation greatly. So, yeah, I'll bring up the suggestion. I think it's a good idea.
Why do you think that people are so hard on MUFON about things like this? Maybe not this one, but in general, because I honestly think you guys do great work. I really do believe you do great work, my man.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I don't want to use the word jealousy, but when you're like number one, like the Patriots, it's like people love to hate you. So, if you're in first place, you're the one with the target on your back all the time. So, I think that we do a really, really good job at what we do. And I think that a lot of the criticism that we get are just from people who either really don't know the real story or just have, an axe to grind with MUFON. But the majority of the people that I come in contact with, in Facebook groups and stuff like that, I think that overall the average UFO enthusiast has a positive view of MUFON. There's just a few, malcontents throughout the internet that
Right.
just want to take down anybody,
And that's where a good press release by Dave McDonald, number one, it shows wonderful leadership. Okay. But number two, it also shows that MUFON is aware of the situation and is not dodging it like they've done in the past. They're dealing with this head on and literally being able to say, hey, we have gone through the investigation. We're extremely proud to say that no other member of MUFON's board of directors or anybody involved with MUFON was involved with this. Although we apologize to the family and those and we understand that people are live their own lives and we can't control what people do. I mean, Bob, I could tell you right now, when I worked in Vancouver in the newsroom, okay, our crime reporter, a number of years after I left radio, our crime reporter got busted for doing things with children. And this was our top investigative journalist, our highest paid investigative journalist who was caught doing this crap. We had no clue whatsoever, because these type of people, they become very secretive about their perversion, if we could call it that, because I think that's what it is, or deviancy, or whatever it may be, and I just think that would go a long way in a nice press release from Dave, and I'm surprised that a lot of the not just you, I mean, this isn't a shot at you or anything, but the new media company that's involved with MUFON regarding Washington D.C. and everything, how do they not even think about this? I mean, hell, their lawyer called me on a story I broke. I don't know if you know that or not, but their lawyer tried to lawyer me up. Where's the lawyer and the PR team on this?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, look, I'm a father of 12-year-old twins, and I think that pedophilia stuff is just like the sickest, most demonic stuff imaginable. So, yeah, I'm on the same page as you, and I will bring it up at our next staff meeting. I think it's a really good idea. However, remember, I'm director of international investigations. I'm not the public relations guy. All right, so I can only make suggestions.
Well, I think that's it's a good way that would probably get a lot of egg off the face of MUFON because of this. Because the last thing you want, even when Harzan gets out of jail, in a couple of years, the last thing you guys want is to have that story overloaded. But we can move on. We've already dealt with that, and I appreciate your honesty and candor on that. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that, you're strong enough to talk about such a sensitive topic. But let's get back to UFOs while you're here. We're apparently going to be hearing of more hearings coming up, Bob, regarding UFOs in another Senate hearing. Marco Rubio was on Fox News recently stating that we have this tech, that people in the background have told them we have this technology. What's your thoughts on all these hearings? Because as excited as I get for them, it's like waiting for Santa Claus every day, and the next day you wake up and in your stocking is a lump of coal, and that lump of coal is no disclosure, no movement forward.
Yeah, I just saw a meme on Facebook where a little kid's going, "Disclosure's imminent," and then he's a teenager. "Disclosure's imminent." It goes through his life till he's an old man with a cane, and he's going, "Disclosure's imminent," and it never happens. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I heard that there's going to be more hearings. I am sorely. This is a personal opinion, not a MUFON opinion. I'm sorely disappointed with these hearings the past couple of years. I absolutely think they're garbage. You'd learn more at a MUFON symposium all right, cases of interest presentation that I do every year to toot my own horn, than you'll ever learn at these hearings. When they, in the first hearing, I think it was the Arrow hearing, when they brought up about the Chinese balloon, I says, okay, here we go. They're going to talk about the 3 shoot downs the next week over Lake Huron, the Yukon, and Alaska, right, of unidentified objects. All right, they buried that story. What did never ever brought it up after the Chinese balloon sentence at the first hearing. Kirkpatrick, like, quits suddenly. He's got all of this, drama going on with David Grush. Is David Grush for real? If he was going rogue, wouldn't they have put a bullet in his head by now? I mean, there's all sorts of questions you could ask, but there was no substance in any of these hearings. All right. The only thing that I thought was really interesting was the sentence that David Grush said, we have non-human biologics, and crash debris. And then a couple of weeks after that hearing, he was invited to be a speaker at some crypto millionaire's penthouse in Greenwich Village in New York to speak to 60 people, including FBI and CIA agents. And he brought up that the United States has a craft intact, 40 feet in diameter, but when you go inside it, it's the size of like several football fields. The reason being that the outside of the craft is in one dimension, the inside of the craft is in another dimension. And he also alluded to it as a TARDIS, which is a term from Doctor Who about a time machine. So I got more out of hearing about his penthouse jaunt than I got out of 3, congressional hearings. And I really think you can get more of the same if there's a 4th hearing. Okay, that's what we're always. Dave McDonald goes down to Washington. He's always pushing the senators. All right, we give them reports. It's like, what's going on, and it's like you can only do so much, and then it's MUFON can only do so much, but we give them material all the time.
Right. Do you think, though, that these hearings even help? Do they help move the ball forward? Have they helped MUFON?
No, again, my personal opinion, they're a waste of time. By the time the David Grush one came around, I'm going, we're never going to learn anything of importance here. All right, it's going to be UFO organizations plugging away, trying to get the information out to the public, and we have become much more savvy over the past 10 years. We're not Jan Harzan's MUFON anymore. It's like we're learning how to use social media better. We reach audiences now of like 400,000 people with a newsletter. We have a YouTube channel. We have MUFON Television. We have a public relations firm now. We put out press releases. We update the MUFON website regularly, which is something we never did. So I really think you're going to get more information out of MUFON than you're ever going to get out of a televised, congressional hearing. With that said, all right, they always talk about the skiff. Senator, I'll talk to you about this in the skiff. So I don't know what they're talking about in the skiff, to be perfectly fair. And they could be talking about, yellow monsters and, big black rectangle, spacecraft, for all I know, that they have, stored away at Area 51. But we don't know that because they're not going to make that stuff public.
Right. So what is the transparency then? I've asked a number of people this. I'll ask you. If this is all about politicians saying we got to be more transparent about what is happening, where's the transparency if everything goes behind closed doors?
Well, I don't think it's about transparency. I think it's about big money and funding. All right. Because it's a hot topic now, and the military industrial complex and other private corporations can get a lot of funding for stuff that we'll never know about. So I don't think it has anything to do with transparency. I don't think they're going to be ever transparent with us. It's going to be by accident, or a UFO organization or some scientist with the algorithm is going to be the one that's going to break disclosure. It's not going to be congressional hearings in the government.
Is disclosure even possible from what you have seen?
Full disclosure, I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime. I absolutely do not. All right. I think that you're going to get drips and drabs stuff that's beneficial to them to release. But let's, if you think about what are they afraid of telling us? Is it because they're working with the visitors? I never like to use aliens or time travel. I call every one of them the visitors. All right. Are they working with? Is it some sort of technology that will destroy the world economy? Are they afraid that religious people are going to commit suicide? It's like, I don't know. Any of the three of those could be, accurate. Are we reverse engineering stuff and we don't want the Chinese to know, so that's why they can't say anything? There's a reason, but I don't think we're going to know. But they're definitely hiding stuff, and I think that the evidence is overwhelming that we possess crash material and that we possess some sort of dead bodies. Absolutely, for sure. And I also believe that the experiencer phenomenon is a real phenomenon.
So what about the idea that people are saying, enough words, we need proof? We need physical proof. Show us a craft. Show us an alien body.
Yeah, I was okay. I didn't know you were waiting for me to answer. Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to show you a craft or an alien body. They'll allude to it. All right. The thing is, what's happening now is people around the world have started presenting items of evidence that they believe might be from spacecraft, and there's a lot of mystery as to why certain people are picked to receive stuff. We had a really interesting year last year with material that came MUFON's way, but more and more of it seems to be making its way into the public domain, where laboratories can actually test it without government permission. We had a Russian sample last year that defied explanation. It was some sort of unknown material, 10% metal, and we didn't know what the rest of it was. 3 labs, 2 in Russia, and the MUFON lab tested it, and we couldn't figure out what it was. It was after the MUFON lab tested it, it was sent to my house. It was robbed out of my mailbox, a federal mailbox in our mailroom building in my community. And I filed a complaint that, it was stolen. The mail clerk said, yeah, I put it in your box, Bob. And when I went to get my mail the next morning, it was in there, was the yellow pages. We managed to get a second sample from Russia, and we had to do it in a really skullduggery type of way to get it back to the symposium, and we presented it to symposium, and then we had to smuggle it out of the symposium and get it to a lab in Australia to do electron microscope testing on it. But the fact is, whether or not it turns out to be something mundane, the fact is they're watching us, and they're watching us what we're receiving as far as material. Okay, so there must be something to the items that people are starting to present to UFO organizations all over the world, or stuff wouldn't be getting robbed out of people's mailboxes.
That's horrible. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, it was a scary story. Oh, it's by far, how many times has this been happening over the decades? The stuff just, disappears. Do you know how many samples have been lost? Do you know how many photographs where there's actual catalogs listing from the 50s and 60s, the photographs that people took of UFOs? Try finding them today. Where did they go? All right, stuff just disappears all the time in the UFO field. It's amazing.
36 seconds to go before we go to break. Do you believe in disclosure, or do you believe in confirmation of the phenomena?
Confirmation of the phenomena. To me, it's already confirmed in my mind. It's like I've seen enough patterns. I've accumulated enough patterns in my 10 years I've been doing this that it's indisputable to me that the phenomenon is real, and it's probably more than one phenomenon. All right, I actually tend towards time travel and interdimensionality, so which is much closer to home than say aliens. But I definitely believe that the phenomenon is real.
Bob Spearing, we have until the top of the hour. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Super Bob.
How'd I do? Am I hanging in there? Am I competing with you?
Yeah, we're going to get to some audience questions right after this.
We're going to what?
Get to some audience questions right
after. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one more story. Maybe I'll tell you right now because the audience can hear. Another case that we got in the Stringfield diary was in, I think it's October 1965. A private was at Fort Riley, Kansas, and he was called off his guard duty and brought to a part of Fort Riley to guard a crashed disc. And he described the disc. He was very scared, and he was very close proximity to the disc. It was partially buried. It had little black squares going around the entire perimeter of this disc. There were no bodies, whatever, and he had to guard it for 3 hours. And while he was standing there guarding it, there was a UE, a helicopter flying overhead with searchlights, just looking for, keeping people away or whatever. And then a 5-ton flatbed truck came, and they loaded it up onto a flatbed truck, covered it with a tarp, and that was the last he ever saw it. This is 1965 that this guy was at this military base. Did you ever notice that a lot of these crashed discs crash in military bases or right next to them? It's like, is there a reason for that? Do you think that that's a coincidence?
No.
No.
But I think that's what they allow us to know.
Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, this guy was an excellent witness for Stringfield. I looked him up. We have his name. We had to black it out because he didn't want anybody to know his name. And he died. He was a military guy, and he died in 2020. So we vetted him. So the witness for that story is a real human being. It's not made up stuff. He was an Air Force person at a military base in the United States. So, and that's what helps. That's what's great. That's what's great about using tools like Ancestry.com and newspapers.com, where you can go back and try to verify a human being. If they had a social security number in the census, were they actually, in the military, you can get their enlistment records. And that's how we vet a lot of our historical reports, is that we use Ancestry.com and newspapers.com. As a matter of fact, that Fort Riley case, the same month, maybe 100 miles south, there was a Newfork report from the same month of a crashed square, I believe it was. Or it wasn't crashed, it was a square that a witness saw, but it was within 1 month of the Fort Riley case. So I'm always looking to see if there's corresponding cases nearby.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. That'd be great. Just see what else is going on here. Mm-hmm.
I only stay up till 1:30 in the morning doing your show. I don't do this for everybody.
That's why I love you, buddy. That's why I love you.
I'm Pennsylvania Eastern Time.
Well, you know what? You're sounding amazing, bud. You're sounding amazing. That's what I love about you. Unlike my buddy Tim, who's sitting right in front of me doing the UFO report later on. Yeah, don't like him. No. Yeah. That's the kind of guy who, takes his French fries from McDonald's and dips them in pickle juice before eating them. Disgusting guy.
I love pickle juice. I put that on my salad. That's my dressing, pickle juice.
Thank you tonight to Cosmic Joe, Area 53, Matt, Richard, T-Bone ×2, and Mr. Coffee for the wonderful super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Reminder, our store is always open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be proud of it because our clothing is much more fun than just garage sale or house painting type material. That's right. 509er, how you doing? Anytime, 509er. Appreciate the love, man. All right, we got 7 seconds here, Bob.
Okay.
Here we go, the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free, whether they're on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From MUFON, we have Bob Spearing until the top of the hour. We're going to get into some more UFO questions that we all may have out there. Bob, thank you so much for being here tonight. Greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get started with some audience questions here, because I know they are starting to pile up. Simon is wondering, Bob, on the subject, where's all the young investigators, aside from Christina Gomez? Thank you.
That's a very good question. It seems that ufology, to a certain extent, is a retired white guy thing. There is a definite generational gap, and the thing that one of the things that MUFON's looking into is like trying to use Facebook and influencers and stuff like that to try to find a new generation of field investigators and enthusiasts in the field, because we don't want to see it die out. But I mean, I'm 65, and a lot of the people I work with are, in my age group, and you don't want that for, investigating phenomenon. You need new blood. So I absolutely agree with the question that we definitely need new blood. The ufologists are just too old.
Is that new blood coming, though, but in a different direction with the way they use social media?
Yes.
Does that make groups like MUFON and others passé?
Yes, and we're trying to fix that. All right, that's our media director Ron James is actively trying to develop a plan where we can bring in young people using influencers, because there are a lot of younger people who are interested in it, but they're not. It's not coordinated. Okay, you have an organization like MUFON, where everybody sort of. You've been working together for years and years, and these younger people, they're on the outside looking in, and the only place they go, to talk about UFOs is on the, social media platforms. So I think it's incumbent not only on MUFON, but for the field in general to have a much more concerted approach to bringing in this new generation, or we're going to have a serious lack of people investigating cases in 10 years.
That's definitely not good
No.
for the database, that's for sure.
No, and I mean, MUFON's not, the only organization anymore, all right? Because it's becoming so popular, ufology, there's other organizations popping up. There's apps and stuff, and it's really diluting the report pool, and I don't see it as a good thing, because you're never, ever again going to be able to get accurate monthly statistics, because there's such a dispersion of UFO reports all over the place to different groups now. That's not a good thing either. So ufology's got its problems, especially when, now there's big money from the government for, certain corporations or, the military industrial complex that want MUFON and other groups out of the way. So there's a lot of stress in the phenomenon right now, researching the phenomenon.
What about the idea that there are rumors out there that certain groups are actually stealing MUFON reports and reporting them as their own?
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but we have found our reports on other people's databases, and apparently they backdoored in, and also I don't think there's a hell of a lot we can do about it legally. So yeah, we've seen a number of our reports purloined and show up on other websites. That's absolutely for sure. But MUFON, in the past year, since we had the crash in February, we have really upped the IT game security wise with our case management system, the 138,000 cases. We're watermarking all of our videos and photos now that the public sees. So if you go in as a member or a member of the public on our latest 20 reports, everything's watermarked now. There's a big MUFON logo there, so we can trace if we're having our intellectual property robbed. There's other things I can't tell you about, but we're really tightening up the ship. So that's a positive, and we have more changes coming that I can't tell you about. But in January, there's going to be a major overhaul that I think the UFO world would be pleased with.
Well, that's good. I mean, you definitely need progression, that's for sure. And like I've said to my audience, and I have no problem saying this publicly. I mean, I have stress concerns about groups like Enigma Labs that have come on out, funded by multi-billionaire Peter Thiel and other millionaires who all have government contracts. Are these the type of people you want to be giving your reports to?
Right.
Are these the type of people who are claiming at one point they had 500,000 reports, then it went down to 300,000, then it went down to 200, then 125, and the latest statistic I saw was only like they only have like 12,000 reports.
It's yeah, I can answer that. They've gone from 500. I think they're saying that overall they have 200,000 reports, and that includes some of the ones that they have of ours. They have, the last time I looked, 18,000 unique reports over since 2018 when they started. 18,000 unique reports have been reported to them specifically through their map app. So, we're still way ahead of the game. But then you also have to consider that Peter Davenport and Newfork, all right, they also take reports. And the tragedy there is, while I think Peter, was very dedicated, they don't investigate anything. So MUFON, a couple of years ago, we started Project Match with Fran Ridge, who has the MADAR setups around the country. and with Peter, where if they get a really compelling case in the Newfork database, we have a special team of field investigators that if Fran thinks they're worthy, they'll be given to MUFON to investigate. So that's a very hopeful sign, because that shows cooperation between three UFO organizations, Fran Ridge's NICAP. In the past, when there was CUFOS and APRO and MUFON, you'll find in our Project Aquarius digital database the letters going back and forth between Carell Lorenzen and Walt Andrus and Hynek, where nobody wanted to cooperate. They all tried to get together for survival, and they just couldn't do it. So it's a hopeful sign that today we have a joint project with 2 other UFO organizations. But the fact is, we're still getting our cases, showing up in other places. But that's pretty much come to an end because of something we did a couple of months ago on the server. So I don't think if you go into Enigma's map app, you're going to find any case from MUFON prior to the end of 2022. So we think we've stemmed that bleeding.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one comes from T-Bone. Bob, have you ever heard of Dr. Shipe's work with the UFO dragons? If so, what's your opinion?
No, I've never heard of Dr. Shipe. And UFO dragons, I don't know what you're talking about, except that some people see UFOs that are like snakes in the sky. That's been going on a long time. I don't know if that's what T-Bone is asking.
All right, let's move on to another one from T-Bone. Can you talk about the orbs of light or the balls of light that you saw?
Yeah, when I started in 2014, I was fascinated by orbs, and I did a lot of work on orbs. All right, and I could tell you a million stories about orbs. I believe it's more than one phenomena. What I saw was, it was raining. I was on a remote lake in a campground, and I was sitting on an overturned canoe. Very heavy cloud cover cut off the tops of the mountains across this lake, which was about 7 miles wide and 4 miles out. This object was under the clouds, and for like 45 minutes, it just moved slowly over the lake. And I was sitting on a canoe with a friend of mine, and we're watching it. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going, what is that? What is that red pinkish light? And then all of a sudden, it dropped, stopped, did a semicircle, stopped, and then was gone. So this is what you call an orange orb. They're not all orange. They come in different shades. Some people see green orbs, some people see blue orbs. But I believe it's several different phenomena. I believe that in some cases it's ball lightning, a natural phenomena. In other cases, I think it's a technological craft wrapped in a plasma to avoid radar. And the third category, I believe, is that there's something possibly endemic to Earth, a type of orb that has at least a rudimentary type of intelligence, because there's so many reports through history where when people try to trap them, they back away or they'll go up. In one case in 1905, there was this female preacher in Wales, and whenever she would preach at a church, the orbs would come, hang out over the church, and when she'd leave in her carriage, they'd follow her home. So there's many instances of intelligence being shown by orbs. There's also a lot of cases, like I mentioned before, of orbs with faces, or there's also cases of orbs that turn into humanoids or back. All right. I mean, it's endless. There are violent orbs. My goodness, the stories I could tell you about violent orbs throughout history, orbs that have altered the course of battles. All right. Orbs that have mutilated people. So the third category is the most interesting to me. Are they some sort of life form? And if they are, why sometimes, they've helped people lost in forests find their way out of forests, all right? And yet in other cases, they'll kill people. All right. So it's a very complex question. There was one case from South America in Albert Rosales' books on humanoids where a guy's on a balcony, an orb comes up to his balcony, turns into two little guys. They touch him and go, he's sick, heal him. The guy had cancer. Boom, he's healed. They turn back into the ball and go away. So it's probably, for me, one of the strangest and most intriguing phenomena. And there's also another natural phenomenon called earth lights or earthquake lights up in Washington, the state of Washington. A lot of tectonic plate activity will cause piezoelectricity, which will manifest sometimes as a ball of plasma. But I definitely think that there is a life form type of orb.
Wow. All right, let's continue on. Let's go over to Joe here, who is asking, are you aware that the defense companies have technology to make these things invisible using radio waves?
Yes, I absolutely believe that. I believe that the defense companies have had the ability to do a lot of things for a long, long time. Weather manipulation, making people see things that aren't there, like little grays or owls in a mask memory. There are apparently reports of pieces of metal from crash debris that when certain radio frequencies are aimed at them, the metal will vibrate and become semi-transparent. So yes, I absolutely believe that radio waves are being used in all sorts of Havana syndrome, all right, which may have a connection to UFOs. Roger Stankovic, our Australian national director at MUFON, is a neuroscientist, and he gave a whole presentation on how human beings that come in close contact with UFOs may be being affected the same way our diplomats are being affected by radio wave weapons being shot at them, causing brain damage. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely 100% our defense companies know how to use radio waves. Think of HAARP, all right? HAARP is a weapon, all right? They're bouncing these radio waves at different frequencies off the stratosphere coming down. Radio waves can make an entire army lethargic and depressed. So I absolutely believe the answer is yes.
The idea, though, that these guys are hiding behind the military-industrial complex to try and keep this technology to themselves rather than for the potential betterment of humanity. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, what I've heard is that, let's say, I think Greer is the guy that pushes this. Let's say that the aliens, the visitors, they give us that free energy technology. The world economy would collapse overnight, because the oil companies would go out of business, the electrical companies would collapse. So is that the reason why they hide this technology? Because they're afraid it's going to, destroy civilization as we know it? I don't think so. I think it's more about money, all right? Having an advantage over China, all right? And, making a profit is like, as cynical as that seems. I can be a cynical person, but I don't think it's that they're worried about, religions collapsing or, oil companies collapsing, from free energy. It's like, it's about money is the bottom line for me. I believe they have back engineered. The Battelle Institute, all right after Roswell, all right, the Roswell metal that sort of was like self-healing, you crunch it up, it would return to shape. Well, last year or 2 years ago, the Battelle Institute, in conjunction, I think it was with the University of Virginia, they came up with a self-healing metal. Who got the metal in 1948? It was the Battelle Institute. They've been back engineering it for 65 years, all right? So, it's not about the betterment of mankind. It's about making money. To me, I believe they have this stuff, and it's about profit.
Well, the only disclosure that we are in right now is the disclosure for dollars movement. I will completely say that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in a movement for anything more than that, and let's just be honest with that. As we move on. But I mean, people need to know that there are these things that are happening out there that we'll never see. We'll never be a part of the game. We're not allowed to play in that sandbox. Let's go to necessary dialogue here. Are the numbers for MUFONs in sightings up or down since 2020?
It's hard to tell because, as I mentioned before, there's more organizations now collecting reports. So on the surface of it, yes, we're down. But I tried to do a comparison. I like to do studies, statistical studies. It also seems that NUFORC is down also. Enigma doesn't give out their information, so you don't know what's going on with them. But 18,000 unique reports in the Enigma database since 2018 doesn't seem like a lot to me. So I would have to say, yes, reports are down, at least with MUFON and NUFORC. And I cannot tell you if it's because reports are going elsewhere. Some are. There's also a fighter pilot that's created his own database of pilot reports. So the evidence is that the reports are bifurcating. They're going out to different places. But my gut feeling is that there has been a decline in UFO reports overall, regardless if it was just MUFON getting them or if it's multiple organizations getting them. I think that reports are down worldwide.
Let's go to Simon. Bob, why send the UFO samples to Australia when you serve the United States?
The MUFON has two laboratories. One is in Missouri and one is in Australia. The one in Australia is operated by our national director, Roger Stankovich. And the reason we send some stuff to Australia is because he has the electron microscope that we so desperately needed for the past several years.
Paramar would like to know, we've heard plenty of examples of how the U.S. government has made things challenging for UFO investigators. Are there examples where they have been cooperative or helpful also?
To my knowledge, no. We don't deal with the government at all. And the United States government is just not one entity, all right? You've got the military, all right? You've got the intelligence agencies, and you've got Congress, all right? MUFON only deals with Congress, all right, because we prefer to deal with the people's representatives, all right? We don't deal with the military at all. We don't deal with the intelligence community at all. But we deal with certain congressmen, Tim Burchett in Tennessee, and I can't think of the fellow in Illinois right now. But we present quarterly reports, down in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, Dave McDonald is giving a report to Congress this week. I put a lot of the report together myself, so I know what's in it. So to the extent that we cooperate with Congress, yes, because we want to be open and transparent. But do we get any cooperation from the United States military or the intelligence services? No, and we don't want it either.
We only got time for about one more question here, so we've got 2 minutes left with you. Let's go to Major Lee here over in the UK. Is the database keyword searchable?
Yes, and that's one of my favorite aspects of the MUFON case management system, is that it is keyword searchable. And very, very shortly in January, it's going to have a major overhaul where the search capabilities will be 22nd century. I can't wait for it to happen. But just for example, you can search the MUFON CMS by date that a case was submitted, date by when the event happened, craft shape, was there an entity, what was the color of the craft. You can search by country, but my favorite feature is the keyword search. Earlier, I talked about the skull drillers, the people that come into people's bedrooms and drill behind their left ear. When I came across the first 2 or 3 cases, I said, this is interesting. Let me do the keyword search. And I did keyword searches for skull, for neck, for ear. and you could combine them, bedroom, skull, and what I got was extraordinary. So the answer is yes, it is keyword searchable, and it is my favorite search function to find patterns in reports.
Love it. Bob, 41 seconds left here. Do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find your information and more on MUFON.
Okay, well, you can find me through MUFON at www.mufon.com. If you have a report, just don't post it on Facebook. File a report. You go to MUFON.com, up in the upper right-hand corner, you can report a UFO sighting, or you can report an abduction experience if that happened to you. Okay, if you're interested in becoming a field investigator, you have to become a member first. It's as low as $60 a year. To join is MUFON.com/join. You'll also see an area where you can learn all about becoming a field investigator. We try our best. Every year we have a symposium. It's going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio next July, and we encourage all of you to come because you'll learn more there than you'll ever learn from a congressional hearing.
Bob Spearing, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Bob, thank you very much, my man. I appreciate you staying up late with us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the 30-second pitch. I appreciated that for MUFON. I'll be in touch, okay, guy? If I get anything interesting you should know, like in the reports we get, I'll keep you abreast, okay?
Appreciate you, brother. You take care,
Thank you,
okay?
sir. It was a pleasure seeing you again. Thank you, guy.
You too, bud. Take care. Love Bob Spearing. Great guy. Great guy. All right, we'll be right back, everybody. Gotta love it when the northern lights are out. See if you can see this. It's outside the studio right now. And this one here, let's turn this one sideways. Yeah, I love the northern lights. Oh, yeah. Full moon, northern lights. That's a good combination. No sign of alien Carl. Hey, River Dog, how you doing? Oh, you have casino lights. Oh, I don't know what's nicer. Big thank you tonight to T-Bone times 2, Mr. Coffee, Joe, Area 53, Matt, and Richard. Greatly appreciate the love. What are you doing there? You're trying to play with my toys, aren't you? All right, camera looks good. Pointy sticks. Lots of pointy sticks. Yeah. Love the northern lights. Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now kicked off. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Uberty. Uberty is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. It's that time of the night where we head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Last night, my boyfriend and I were driving home from Universal Studios in Orlando. We were rerouted away home we have never gone before, and we're traveling basically in the middle of nowhere. My boyfriend's speedometer is broken on his car, and he must press the button to reset the miles after he gets gas. This will be especially important soon. We were driving on a deserted road in the middle of absolute nowhere with not one car in sight. My boyfriend realized we hit the 130-mile mark on his odometer. That means we needed gas. But there was literally not one gas station in sight. I put the search in my phone for a gas station nearby, and we found one. It turned out to be closed. In a hurry, we found another gas station 5 minutes up the road. This is where the story truly gets weird. My boyfriend thought he closed his gas cap after he filled up, and we were once again driving along this deserted road. We heard a loud bang and realized he forgot to put the gas cap back on. So we are driving around this dark road looking for the gas cap. He finally pulls over and realizes somehow the gas cap is still attached to the car. We get back on track to the other gas station. Out of nowhere, I had a horrible thought about something going wrong at that gas station. I pushed it aside as best as I could, because I knew We needed gas, and AAA is not an option where we were. We get to this gas station and the lights are kind of on. This road literally leads to a dead end with a gas station on it. The only way to leave this area was to turn left or go straight out of the gas station. My boyfriend got out of the car to see if we could get gas, and the feeling intensified. I have literally never felt like that in my entire life. My stomach dropped into my butt. I have been in very disturbing situations, such as almost being kidnapped twice, being followed home, watching someone being taken away in a body bag after being hit by a car, and even some paranormal situations. I can talk about this sometime in the future, but I have never, ever felt like this before. I saw a white car pulling up the road, and it looked like it was going to make a left. Keep in mind, there is literally no one on this road. He pulls up and notices my boyfriend, and comes back up with his windows down. I found this very strange because my boyfriend has a genuinely nice sports car, and my mind immediately went to panic mode. I started screaming his name, and the man realized that someone else was in the car. He turned left and sped off suddenly. Sadly, I did not get his license plate because of how dark it was. The situation frightens me more than you can even imagine. It may not seem too scary, but it was easily one of the most terrifying things to watch because I did not know if I was going to witness my boyfriend being robbed at gunpoint or something like that. The feeling and thought I just had 10 minutes earlier are what also made the situation even worse. We found a gas station with actual human life around, and we made it home safe and sound. Once I got home, my dad told me that that road we were driving on was famous for many bodies being found on it. I hope no one gets put in that situation. Be safe out there, my friends.
Thank you to Swamp Dweller for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel. Just type in Swamp Dweller. It'll come right up. He's got over 300,000 subscribers on his channel because he's that darn spooky. From the spookiness of Swamp Dweller to the UFO report, here's little Timmy James.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
It's a UFO report. Little Timmy James in studio once again tonight. Tim, how you doing, my man? I am doing absolutely fantastic. Excellent. You know, been a busy week, you know. UFO world is going nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Darth Cheney is the latest rumor. You know what? The gossip rumors that come through this are usually ones, a lot of them I'll roll my eyes with.
Yeah.
But this one, you know, I'm just saying, if anybody Black Ops is listening, and we're talking Darth Cheney, you didn't hear it from us. Why are people right now, Tim, ragging on Dick Cheney, the former vice president, over UFOs? What are you learning?
Well, right now there's a broad spectrum. There's a huge spectrum of, I guess, speculation. Some old reports have come out. He really did a number when, I guess, when he was when he was a vice president of the United States, he did quite a number with keeping things very, very secret and bending the rules, so to speak, and just not being upfront and truthful and straight up with the people that he was supposed to be. It just seems like now this is all coming to light, and there's some people that have, like I said, that have speculated that he's Darth Cheney, but it's just coming from all different directions. And I can't really honestly say that there's anything monstrously credible. I mean, I went back, I guess, probably to the archives, like the New York Times and stuff like that. And there were some articles written in probably about 2009 that really hammered on him pretty good. And I mean, he was, to a degree, he was hiding a lot of stuff under the auspice of the 9/11 attacks and stuff, right? So I get that, but I think he was enveloping other things that he didn't want people to know about into that sort of portfolio, if you, for lack of a better term. But yeah, there's a lot of chatter about him right now. And like I say, to try to narrow it down and get away from this gigantic beehive of talk and controversy is just, at this point in time, it's like, nah, I don't think I'm really ready to put something meaty in a story together until we start seeing a little bit more consistency, I guess is the the best way to put it.
Well, I totally agree with you on that. And, one of the things that I've always heard about, and I first heard about it about 2020,
right,
from Science Bob, as a matter of fact, of this secret group called the Collins Elite. Now, the Collins Elite, nobody knows who they are,
right,
who's involved with them, but it is believed potentially, as the Collins Elite has come out very, very much recently from other people, that it's believed that Dick Cheney may be the head of the Collins Elite. Now, this is a group of people, mostly men, who are very much about keeping the UFO secret. And when you have somebody, and I don't know if Cheney is the leader. This is just the rumor going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Because let's also remember, he has a lot of money out there within defense contracts. I mean, when you're charging $1 million a month for laundry to be done in the Middle East, $1 million a month. And how many months was the U.S. military there?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What, 12 years?
Yeah. That's a lot of
14
months.
years, 15 years?
Yep.
It's over $1 billion just to do laundry. But with the Collins Elite, there is no confirmation. People can only speculate, that this group exists, and it would only make sense that somebody like Cheney may be the one who is heading it all.
Yeah.
And it also ties into long time, especially Republican senators and Congress people who have been there for a long time. Because remember, in last year's Defense Act, when they were going to put the UAP DA in there, it was Republicans, old school, long-term Republicans who have been elected for 25, 30 plus years, who were the ones who whitewashed it and then put it in there. So you look at Mike Turner, representative from Ohio. Now, there is somebody who, in his constituency, is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, that employs over 50,000 people. Do you think they want the secrets to get out? There's jobs on the line, national security on the line, money on the line.
No question.
So is Dick Cheney the one pulling the strings on these? There's a lot of people, including our good friend from Dan Warren from 5 Pillars of Evidence on TikTok, who believe that this may be true.
Yeah, and like I say, it may be true, but I don't think it'd do. I mean, we can spitball and speculate and stuff right now, and I mean that's all we're doing. But I don't think it does the listeners and anybody any good to just, report it as truth when, for me to report it as truth when I'm not 100% sure and I don't have proper facts. There's just too much going on. And I think judging from the things that are true about Mr. Cheney, I would put some stock into what some of these people are saying, because I mean, like, he was really cutting corners and being devious. And when he was doing, when he was the vice president and stuff. And like I say, I think it was probably September 11th and all that stuff that was going on, but he drug all the other stuff that was a good cover for his other side gigs, so to speak. Right. So I think I'd like to dig a little deeper and get a better grasp on it.
Well, I could say this: if he is by chance one of the members, if not a leader of a group called the Collins Elite or something similar to that, this UFO story is never coming out.
Yeah,
never coming out.
No, he's got some. Judging by what I read, some of the lawyers that he had representing him during certain things that were happening with Congress and between him and Congress and stuff, they were pretty sharp and cutthroat. They managed to stop investigations and stuff from happening. So yeah, I would suggest that you are bang on that, my friend.
Well, you know what? the best thing we can do is just literally just hope that we don't get an invite to go hunting with them.
Speaking of hunting, yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I like my face. It's not the nicest one, but yeah, I don't want to get shot in the face. That's for sure.
No.
So yeah, I'm going to go with Cheney a little bit and do some more reading and research, and then probably come together with some better ideas of what's actually going on with them anyway, and if there's any truth to any of it, right? So we'll just take it from there, I'm thinking.
Sure.
Excellent.
Where are we going next?
Well, just a little public service announcement. So it's what do they call it at weddings when you've got to remember the date or whatever the heck that is, or
the save the date crap?
Save the date. Yeah, I'm just looking for it here. There is, where are you here? I'm in the wrong spot. So there is a disclosure. We were speaking about disclosure. Obviously, we speak about it a lot, but we were speaking about disclosure tonight. And I'm just looking on October the 20th of this year, the New Paradigm Institute, and I will read their little press release. We are thrilled to announce the inaugural Global Disclosure Day on October 20th, 24th. This landmark event will bring together our Citizens for Disclosure chapters across 43 states and around the globe, hosting watch parties for special 2-hour live streaming events. So that you can find that on newparadigminstitute.org. So that's up to the 24th of October. I know it's still a ways away, but mark it on your calendar. So the speakers is Ross Coulthart, obviously premier investigation journalist on UAPs and author of In Plain Sight. Lou Elizondo, obviously I don't need to read his credentials. We all know who he is. Daniel Sheehan, the president of the General Council of New Paradigm Institute. Rich Hoffman will be a speaker, and he is an enterprise architect at Redstone Arsenal. And the Marshall Space Flight Center, executive board member of Explorer SCU, and previous state director of MUFON, Alabama. Bertie Jarowski, founder of ABQ UFOs in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Dr. B. Valerio, an astronomer at Nordic Institute for Theoretical Physics, leading the Vasco and Exoprobe projects. And finally, Steve Bassett, who you've had on the show before, founder of the Paradigm Research Group and co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. So, yeah, just an interesting tidbit. If anybody's interested, I was looking at it, I thought, good thing to report. Maybe somebody might want to jump on and see what's going on. Other things, oh yes, Miss Jennifer, what is her name? Jennifer Granholm, the U.S. Secretary of Energy, was grilled in the House of Representatives on UFOs, among other objects. This just recently happened in a rapid-fire exchange with an American lawmaker. U.S. Secretary of Energy Jennifer Graham has made an important admission about the unidentified flying objects. When Representative, and I love this person's name, Ana Paulina Luna, asked if the Department of Energy had engaged federal counterterrorism personnel in investigating UFOs around the nuclear facilities, Granholm first appeared to avoid answering it. When Luna repeated the question, Granholm admitted that the DOE has engaged U.S. military special forces divisions. So the question was, does the DOE work for the JSOC or work with JSOC in order to handle security measures? Asked Luna. Grantham's answer was, we work with all of the security entities around the federal government. We are part of an overall all government, in quotes, effort on both cyber and as well as national security. So she avoided answering the question directly. So Luna pressed again and said straight out, do you guys work with JSOC? Yes or no? And Grantham said, yes, we do. So the exchange on the UFOs, which the U.S. government now formally calls UAPs, we all know that, took place during Granholm's testimony to the Oversight Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives, the lower chambers of Congress, the U.S. Congress. The fiery exchange took place during the 4-minute phase of the hearing at the 1 hour and 34-minute mark in the hearing that went on for more than 2.5 hours. During their exchange, Grantham also termed the UFOs being spotted around critical U.S. Facilities as drones. When Luna pressed that such unexplained sightings had been reported in the pre-drone era as early as the 40s, Grantham said she would follow up on that, and she didn't. She couldn't give any immediate responses. So this is important. The admission of this is important because, yeah, Grantham that has engaged. Sorry, the admission of Grantham that the DOE has engaged with the JSOC, the Military Joint Special Operations Command, is important as it has long been alleged that the JSOC has been part of the U.S. government's effort to retrieve alien technology from alien spacecraft that have crashed on Earth. To be sure, while the term UFOs is most commonly associated with alien or extraterrestrial association, the term actually refers to any flying or aerial object whose origin or nature cannot be identified. UFOs are not necessarily alien in nature. So,
see, I got to stop you right there. UFOs are alien. UAPs are not.
Right.
So if they're not from here, and this is my argument with a lot of these political people, because I mean we're talking semantics here.
Yeah.
For a second.
Yeah.
If they're not from here, they are alien. Anything from outside of Earth is alien.
Yeah.
So if they're not from here, where are they from? This is where politicians need a good shaking. Okay? They need a good shaking because, and look, I know I'm only pulling out one little tidbit of what you just said.
Sure. That's all right.
Okay? But let's get to the reality of the subject. If they're not from here, they're alien.
That would be the definition.
If somebody comes up here from the United States into Canada, they're an alien. Legal or illegal.
Exactly.
One of the two.
Right.
If you or I hop the border illegally, we are considered an illegal alien into the United States.
That's right.
So if these craft, these UFOs, not UAP, are not from Earth, they are alien. And I'm getting tired of the semantics that they're trying so hard and stupidly being successful in literally convincing people, well, if they're not from this Earth, but we can't confirm if they are alien or not. Or they deny that they are alien.
Right.
Well, if they're not from Earth, where the hell are they from? There's only a few options. They are either from outer space, which makes them what?
Aliens.
They are from a different timeline, which would make them what to our timeline?
Alien?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
They could be from a different dimension, which would make them
probably alien.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. No,
they could be interdimensional, which makes them
alien.
Bingo. We have a bingo, my friend.
Right on.
All right. Come pick up your new knitted socks for the winter.
Exactly. So, yeah, she got grilled and she dropped the bomb and she said, yeah. So, it's one of those things. It's like she got caught and again, perfect, right? Answer the question. It's yes or no. Don't give me the political runaround. Let's just get to the point. So, what was it? Leading UFO expert Jeremy Corbell told Fox News that the JSOC is likely hardcore involved with the crash retrieval program under the authority of the CIA. So the DOE having to admit they work with the JSOC is a big deal. Secretary Graham did not like having to admit that. During the hearing when Luna pressed Graham about the alleged retrieval of technology from UFOs that are alien and reverse engineering it, she said that she had no knowledge of that.
Of course.
So CYA, I think, is the term that you use.
Oh, that's all it is, man, is cover your butt on things.
No doubt.
It just gets ridiculous. I
Mhm.
mean, they are so afraid to tell the truth because they don't want to be the one that actually does it.
Yeah.
It's like we could talk about it, but nobody can be the one who actually admits it.
Right.
And that's where we're still stalling.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Spaced Out Radio's UFO Report with Tim James continues right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Yes.
There we go. Lex Diaz, how you doing? Who else is here? You know, I watched Elizondo, and I talk about that. You know,
Mhm.
that they're not from here, but we can't call them alien. Like,
I think Webster's, if you look at Webster's, probably has a proper definition for that. And I think everything you said, yeah, exactly.
it's just one of those things, dude. Like, when I hear them talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes me feel dumb.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes me feel dumb.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off because it's like you're insulting my intelligence
Exactly.
for your cover up.
Right.
Right? It's like that Bigfoot conference I was at a couple
Yes.
months ago
Yep.
or last month. When I'm listening to these science guys talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they won't even here they are on stage making fun of the woo side of everything.
Okay.
And yet a couple of them have never had an encounter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they don't want to investigate what it could be because it goes against all of their scientific theories.
I see. Okay.
So instead, they make fun of people who've had encounters, of ones that just vanish, just disappear, or communication,
Right.
or anything along those lines.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's just, I don't like being played a fool.
No.
And this is why I've really tried. You know, we take the UFO report pretty seriously.
Yeah.
You know, but in bringing on guests and everything, this is why we're starting to focus more on experiencer type people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will send out my email tomorrow again to Elizondo's people saying you're up to over 80 interviews at this point.
Yeah.
We don't have a date.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about rescinding my request, and when I rescind my request from the PR company, I am going to, because I have his phone number.
Yeah.
I'm going to text Elizondo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, Bud, like, this is, I'm sorry. I would love to have you on the show to talk about this, but there's no point now.
Yeah.
There's no point, because now I'm my audience of over 200,000 is now an afterthought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. True.
We're an afterthought. And my listeners are more important than that.
100%.
So
yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Have at her. Yeah. No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. I'm going to first send a very, very terse, politely terse email.
Okay.
Very Canadian email.
Okay.
Right?
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Gonna make her.
What's that?
Says you gonna make her?
Oh, dude.
Exhausted.
I'm always exhausted.
Yeah, no doubt.
Woo poo, how you doing? Just want a day in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I don't have to rush home and do a bunch of shit like yesterday.
Like go for supper and yeah.
Oh God, I didn't want. I actually, it was a great dinner.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Booty Mongol, how you doing?
Bit of a buzzkill. Okay.
And I promise you guys, our listeners, that if I do end up rescinding the media request from them, that I will be reading it to you guys so you guys know. I'm not going to keep this a secret.
No.
Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Tony, me, Mr. Coffee, Joe, Area 53, Matt, and Richard for the super chats. And we're going to get going here in like 5 seconds. All right, final half hour, Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Because we're not aliens to Earth.
Oh, right.
No, we are not. Want to remind all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tim James is here. UFO Report continues on here. Where are we going next, my man?
Well, I was going to have a look at something else, but it was about disclosure again and the hearings coming up. But give you the Reader's Digest. They have not set a date, but there's a lot of lip service going on. Oh yeah, we're getting her done, and oh yeah, it's going to be in September, and so a long story that leads to nowhere. So we'll wait till they get a date and I'll bring that up. But I found this really cool story this week in UFO history. So this one comes from 1978. And once I finished with it, I think you'll understand why I found it. So it was just intriguing right? So this took place on an evening in September of 1978 in a small town in northern Italy. So between 8:15 p.m. and 8:20 p.m., Ultima Boscaglia and her son Riccardo heard a super loud, intense noise, and it was like they said it was like a round of artillery fire, and from where they were standing in the street in front of their house, they looked up to see a fireball with yellow-orange contours and a reddish trail. Suddenly, in a blinding light, the object vanished. So the lower part of the round-shaped object had been seen to be reddish in color and very bright white in the upper part. So Mrs. Boscaglia and her son were so frightened that they took off and went into their house, right? So other witnesses of the phenomenon were Santina Ferrali and her son Revo. Mrs. Ferrali was inside watching TV, and she heard the noise at the same time that the other people had seen it, and was aware of an extremely bright light outside, and it at almost the same time, the electricity in the house went out all of a sudden and then came back on. She found it a little weird, but whatever. She was okay. So soon after that, her son arrived at the house, and he hung out with her for about a half hour or so, and then had to take off. Had another appointment. So 9 p.m., he got in his car, started it up, and started to drive away. He'd gone just a couple of meters when it stalled and then completely shut down. While he was puzzled, looking around trying to figure out why his car wouldn't start, he saw a strange bright object followed by a beam of red light. It landed on the road in front of him. The lower part of the object was a flat oval shape, with the upper part being a hemispherical and orange in color, which he described like the color of a priest's hat. So it was so bright that it lit up the area around it, and it appeared to be standing on the road on 3 iridescent beams of light, varying from yellow to green to red to sky blue. The object, he figured, had a diameter of about 3 meters, and it covered the whole roadway. So it hung in the air at about the height of the hood of his car. So suddenly on the object, a port opened in the fashion like a double door, and one part to the left and one part to the right. So 2 beings emerged and proceeded down the craft, and I guess those beings would be aliens. They were about 1 to 1.5 meters in height, and they descended in a fluctuating motion until they were about 10 centimeters so 4 inches from the ground. In that position, their heads were level with Rivo's face as he sat in the car. So he saw that they had green coveralls with big helmets, and that part of these helmets were transparent. The creature's skin seemed also to be green, and while their faces were to a degree human-like, they were lean with bony arched cheeks, regular noses, and thin lipless mouths. He couldn't see their eyes or their ears, as they seemed to be hidden by shadows from outside. So the fronts of the helmets had what appeared to be 2 slender cylindrical protuberances like springs. So Rubio observed that their proportions appeared normal as they walked towards the car. But what he found was they seemed to have more interest in the car than in the owner. And when they moved behind him, he could keep an eye on them, watching them in the rearview mirror. So he wasn't moving. He was just totally frozen. So, in fact, he noticed that their awkwardness seemed more evident as they inspected the vehicle. After completing the circling of the car, they headed back for the UFO, where they ascended with the same fluctuating motion as they displayed when they came out. So, once on board, the first of them settled into the bright dome, the hemispherical section. The witness couldn't say whether the entity was sitting or standing, and because he could only see his head. Right. So before entering the object, the second entity turned around and looked at them as though he wanted to say something, but then abruptly turned away and entered the craft and jumped in the passenger seat, is basically what it boils down to. The port shut, and from the lower part of the craft came 2 very intense beams. The UFO rose vertically about 10 meters and then shot away in a level flight, leaving a bright horizontal trail. So as the UFO disappeared, the headlights of the car came back on automatically. And since the gears were still engaged, the car started to move forward without any action by Rubio. So Forelli had not touched the vehicle, Forelli had not touched the vehicle controls when the craft first appeared, as he was first bewildered and then almost paralyzed with terror. So, and then after that, for 3 days after that incident, he had experienced a really bad burning in his eyes. And it was reported that in the next street over, at around 9:30 on the same evening, several televisions went off for about a minute and then returned to normal operations. So this is where this is kind of funny. So when investigators got to the scene of the landing, they found some strange traces in the road. In the middle of the roadway, there was a black circle, approximately 15 centimeters in diameter, which appeared to have been caused by considerable heat. To the right, and to the left of this mark, there were 2 other traces of fire, one close to some bushes, and there were broken stones from a retaining wall on the other side that had been burnt very hard, but were super lightweight. So obviously a ton of heat, right?
Right.
So 2 samples of the soil were taken, one from the area where the surface was scorched and the other from beyond the burnt ground, right? So these samples plus some blackened gravel picked up by Revo himself were subjected to chemical analysis and by consultants in labs in Italy. So the analysis of the radioactivity, fluorescence, and other testing was undertaken. Unfortunately, these results were very conclusive and showed neither magnetization nor much radioactivity, other than minute traces above the lower limit imposed by testing equipment. So the possible active residues may have been diluted by the rain or water, they weren't sure, but no abnormal elements or compounds were found for the analysis. So the conclusion, this is the piece de la resistance. The conclusion reached by the lab was that these traces were consistent with the remainders of the cooking of a pork roast.
A pork roast.
Yeah. And
Well,
local,
that's nice.
I know, right? And local authorities deemed the multiple sightings as being either weather balloons or hoaxes created by humans, and the probability of overconsumption of alcohol by witnesses. The case was closed and no other investigations were performed. So I was like, okay, this is a long.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I mean, how do you get from alien craft burning things into the ground to pork roast?
I don't know. That was the best part of the whole story. I had to share it with everybody. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. And this is 1978. Right. So we're not talking like in the 40s or the 30s. Like there was some better technology, but yeah, a little northern Italy, town in Italy. Like, okie dokie then.
I don't get it.
Nope. Me either. So that was an interesting story anyway. I thought everybody liked that one.
I'm trying to put this together. I am really trying to put this together.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get pork roast out of it? Can you read that line for me again?
Most certainly can.
If you
Let me
don't
just
mind.
pull her back up.
Okay. I got to hear that again.
Okay. So, blah, blah, blah. All right. So the samples were subject to a temperature not exceeding 500 degrees Celsius. So the conclusion reached by the lab was that these traces were consistent with the remainders of the cooking of a pork roast. So there's all these people sitting around in their homes. What the heck's going on? My TV's melting, and all it and multiple things have happened to witnesses. Oh no, it's pork roast. Somebody was cooking a pork roast here.
Oh my god!
And I mean, some of the witnesses were little kids too. They were out with their moms and stuff like that. Yeah, alcohol. That's probably what it was. The kids were all drinking. But yeah,
let me tell you, swamp gas, Venus. I can understand those.
Mm-hmm.
Pork roast.
That was I know it was that the rest of the story could have gone out the window. That was like the key point to the whole thing. It was like, okay, wow, reading it and getting super interested. And were they shish kebabs too? Was there vegetable remnants?
I don't get it, dude.
I don't know.
I do not get it. All I want to know is, was that a medium rare pork roast? Was it a dry pork roast?
That's right. Gee, was it a pulled pork roast? Like, I don't know. Yeah. So I thought everybody would enjoy that anyway. So.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Definitely. So that's about it.
Well, you know what? Let's just chat away here. We got about 8 minutes
to
go here on the UFO report. And, there's a lot more going on out there right now. I mean, Marco Rubio, we brought it up earlier a little bit. I brought it up with Bob Spearing just to get your thoughts on it. Senator from Florida, Marco Rubio, who's a pretty straight-laced guy. I mean, this is a guy I don't think he's ever smiled in his life.
No.
but he seems to take his job very seriously.
Mhm.
He's also been the last couple of years very intrigued about the UFO report
Mhm.
and, what is happening there, what is actually known. And he went on Fox News basically saying that we need to start taking this more seriously.
Right.
We need to start taking this a little bit more and gain more understanding about it.
Mhm.
This is all in regards to potentially new hearings, like you mentioned
Yeah.
a little bit ago. But just your thoughts on Rubio trying to, bring up this subject on Fox News, saying we got to start taking it a little bit more seriously.
The way I see it, and again, it just seems that I think that we were talking about it on Friday. It seems that there are a lot of, I guess, for lack of a better term, important people or high-ranking people and stuff like that that are actually really starting to push for. And here's the word that we all hate: disclosure, right? Rubio, I think I agree with you. I watched a little bit of it, and I think that what I was seeing was, a straight-laced guy that's like, okay, let's either poop or get off the pot here. This needs to happen. But in saying that, that seems to be the key phrase that I have seen over and over and over again in news articles and stuff that I've read or I've watched. We need to take this seriously. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to get some answers. I'm not necessarily. I think some people use that as a, hey, look, I'm waving the flag. And then there's other people that I think that are actually mean what they say. And I think Rubio is actually meaning what he says, right?
Oh, true.
So
True. Lou Elizondo was on another podcast, and he got into it about, remember last week when Donald Trump basically said, I would release the UFO files,
Yep.
where I'd look over it. And look, we know he's not going to.
No, he can't.
Okay. But this is what Elizondo said. He's kind of getting ripped on it.
Okay.
And I want to make a comment on this, because you or me, even though the majority of our listeners are in the United States,
Sure.
you or me have no skin in this game.
No, not at all.
Our job is to report it down the middle.
Yep.
So Elizondo basically said during this podcast, you now have former President Donald Trump saying, for the record, if he were to get elected, he would actually consider releasing the UFO files. Holy smokes. You now have a president saying that, for the record, just last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's not saying to vote for Trump.
No.
He's not saying he's pro-Trump. He's not saying he's anti-Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He's just making a comment.
Yeah.
The emotion of people posting after that is ridiculous. Robert Salas, UFO guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Literally with the nuclear weapons and the UFOs back in the 60s and 70s.
Yes. Okay.
Says, first, Lou, Trump is not president and won't ever be. Even if he won, you can't believe any promise he makes. Science Bob jumped in. How do you know Trump is lying? He's talking. I thought that was pretty funny, by the way.
I saw that, actually.
All right. We've heard that. This is from Tom Smith. We've heard that from presidents before. I'm not convinced they have the ability to do something like that. Several have promised, but they always get stonewalled by the bureaucracy when they try. The point that I'm getting at with this, I don't care about the politics.
No.
I don't care about Trump, Harris. Don't care. We got our own problems up here that we need to worry about.
Exactly.
We have no skin in the game.
No, not at all.
But the point is, we still got to talk about it because it is UFO related.
Absolutely.
I don't care whether you like Trump or hate him.
Yeah.
But we have a president, former president, who may be president again, maybe not. Depends on the people.
Sure.
Okay. And yes, we still get a vote on that. He's talking UFOs. This is a good thing. And the fact that Elizondo is being lit up in a lot of these comments because he brought up the point of a former president talking about this subject, that if reelected, he would consider opening the UFO files. And look, we know those files are not going to be open.
No.
But the main thing is we have a person in stature who is saying this. If it was Biden or Harris, I would be saying the exact same thing.
Yep.
The only one I wouldn't believe is Trudeau. But that's for a different story at a different time.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So the reason why I bring that up is Elizondo or any other person who brings up what Trump said, like we have, I took crap for it. Why are we getting in crap for it? Why are people, just absolutely ready to go ballistic because we talk about how he mentioned UFOs? That is a story.
Yeah.
It is a comment that whether you love him or hate him, and once again, I have no skin in the game being Canadian.
Exactly.
Don't care. He still, a man of power, brought up UFOs.
Yeah.
It is our job as a mainly UFO show to talk about that.
Absolutely.
It is Elizondo's job on his media tour to talk about that because he was asked the question.
Yeah.
You can't dodge the question. I don't care if you have Trump derangement syndrome or whatever it's called. I don't care if you are a MAGA guy wearing your red hat all over the place. Does not matter to me.
Nope.
But I don't care what president it is or person of power. If they are talking UFOs, it needs to be discussed.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
believe it or not, it moves the ball minusculely forward.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that. I would like to ask, like, if you were to ask me on the Canadian side of thing, I would like to ask why Mr. Prime Minister Trudeau, okay, as much as I don't care for the guy, but putting my journalistic hat on,
right?
Why Mr. Trudeau or Prime Minister Trudeau has every other party made comments about UFOs, but not your Liberal Party? MPs from the Bloc Québécois, from the New Democratic Party, and the Canadian Conservative Party have all talked UFOs. Your team is in power. Why have you not talked UFOs? Have you been briefed? That's what I want to ask.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And that's what we have a right to know.
Of course.
We have a right to know as citizens to have our politicians talking about this. And what do they know?
Yeah.
So let's put the political bias aside for a minute.
Exactly.
And talk about the topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud Elizondo did that.
Yeah.
Even though I'm talking about rescinding his interview here.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. Right?
Yeah. And you're right. I don't understand the lashing out part. I really don't. And I mean, you see it not only here, but in so many different ones, right? It's weird.
Tim?
Yes, sir.
Another great UFO report. Thank you very much for coming on in and chatting some UFOs, bringing some great stories to us. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good show.
That was great.
Good show.
Yeah.
Why did that go great?
I have no idea.
Weird. All right.
I don't know.
Oh, no. Mr. Bill was a very underrated character.
Uh-huh. Yep. I love that. My mom used to go out and go with the girls or whatever Saturday nights, obviously. And she'd go with the ladies and have a few beverages and dance or whatever. And so I was the oldest, so I'd babysit. And you be in bed by this time? Okay, Mom. So everybody go to bed and I'd slide out into the front room and put Saturday Night Live on. And I was always like, come on, Mr. Bill. Come on, Mr. Bill. Laying on the floor, and then I'd hear the car come in and be doing the army crawl across the carpet trying to get back to my room.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, then she'd walk in and feel the back of the TV because back then, obviously, the tube TVs, and she'd be like, that's still warm. Yeah.
School Bill?
Yeah, that happened the other night, too, I thought.
Weird.
Night school.
Weird. What's happening to that school that we don't know about there?
I don't know. No idea.
No idea. No idea. All right, I guess I gotta download this stuff. I'm hungry.
Are you?
You know, I'm craving
Taco Bell.
No, actually.
Oh, wow.
I'm craving a Dutchie donut.
Yeah, it's got raisins in it, though.
I love the raisins. Big raisin guy.
Really, eh?
Always have been.
Oh. You get the little boxes and stuff when you went to school when you were a kid?
Yep.
Oh.
Loved those. Yeah.
Really?
I'd even sneak an extra one.
Really?
Yeah.
No, never was a massive. I like raisin bread.
Raisin bread is good
with cinnamon in. Yeah,
same as raisin bagels. Those are good.
I don't mind that.
Cinnamon raisin bagels. Those are good.
Yeah.
Put a little nice cream cheese on those.
Ooh.
You know what actually tastes well? Really good. Believe it or not, it's an odd combination, but it works. Is sun-dried tomato bagel.
Okay.
With strawberry cream cheese.
Really?
Believe it or not, it is phenomenal.
I guess, yeah. Sweet and yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know people used to think I was nuts because I used to eat peanut butter and onion sandwiches. You're like, you're an idiot.
I love onions, man.
I was like, peanut sauce, like Thai peanut dipping sauce is onion and peanut butter. Yeah, I don't know. Weird kid, I guess.
Well, look at you. Into all that aliens bullshit there.
Weird. I don't know.
He's a weird one, people.
That's right.
So the Navajo Warrior, I was looking on Facebook today.
Yeah.
The Navajo Warrior actually showed a video today of him power slamming somebody and put him for the pin.
Oh, yeah.
El Ovni wrote Volador responded.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, said I would have kicked out.
Huh.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him and his partner in a while, actually.
No, they're a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Don't need them.
Nope.
El Phantasmo.
Yeah.
I didn't like him.
No.
I went back and watched the video.
Yeah.
Honestly, the guy was a dick.
I know. I thought so.
Complete dick. You know?
Kept pulling on his mask and stuff. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Guy's just a jerk. And El Ovni Volador. I mean.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that this morning? It was 2 degrees.
It was beautiful.
I know.
It was beautiful.
Had all the deer in the front yard and 6-point buck, 4-point buck, 4-point buck. Yeah, I got pictures of them all. It was like, my God, the dogs were just going, oh, let us out.
Let us out so we can chase them.
Yeah, no. Let's
Uh-huh. I hear you, man.
Yeah. And you know what? If we actually let the dog out in our yard.
Who lets the dogs out?
Who? When you let the dog out and there's deer in the yard and they chase the deer, you can get in crap for that. I'm like, nah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I saw today on Facebook that kind of tripped me out? You know how there's a bunch of those, I was today years old when I learned.
Oh, yes.
You know what one it was today?
No.
Remember when you used to make Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
And you'd put it in the juice jug?
Yeah.
And the handle was always like convex or concave?
Yes.
It's because you're supposed to put that in the glass and allow the juice to slide down it.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, go figure that one out.
I never heard of that. I don't know.
No, those ones bug me. They do.
It's like, exactly.
It's like a can opener. You're not supposed to open it from the top.
No, you're supposed to open it from the
side.
Yeah. No.
You
ever tried to do that with an electric can opener? It goes all over the place.
I've never tried that, man. I was always a Starfrit guy. Remember the Starfrit commercials?
Yep.
Starfrit info commercials. Dude, you could run over that stuff with a truck and it would still work. I used to have a big collection when my ex-wife and I were together.
Yeah.
I'd ask for something Starfrit every year for Christmas.
Really?
Yeah. It always worked.
Yeah, they do.
It always worked.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. When going back to Kool-Aid, biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Going in the fridge. I had 2 younger brothers that lived with, stepbrother and brother, and then older stepsister. So the 4 of us in the house at one time, and I'd come home and you'd go for that glass of Kool-Aid and there was this much in the jug.
I know.
It's like, who the F?
Yeah. That was the beauty of having 2 older sisters who'd already moved out by the time I was at that age.
You were responsible for your own Kool-Aid?
Because I was the youngest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I used to just drive me nuts. But Kool-Aid was
My
awesome.
sisters were famous for milk doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there's a certain person upstairs who is famous for leaving a sliver of milk. Well, it's enough for my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rest of us don't get cereal.
Gotta have your cereal.
You know, I used to be a real Raisin Bran guy.
I like Raisin Bran.
I was a Raisin Bran guy for, I'm going to be honest with you, probably 40 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That I ate Raisin Bran literally every day.
That's good for you.
Every day. But when they came out with those new flakes that don't absorb the milk.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're all crunchy and they're like razor blades going into your mouth.
All the roof of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
I have not eaten Raisin Bran since. Hold on.
One more story. Maybe I'll tell you right now because the audience can hear.
You're listening.
There it is. Yeah. I haven't had a box of Raisin Bran. I remember one time my mom bought no name brand Raisin Bran. There was 10 raisins in the whole thing.
What?
Yeah.
There's supposed to be 2 scoops, dude.
Yeah, but that was no name brand.
Oh, the generic stuff. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I said, Mom, please don't.
No. And the flakes were real thick.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Most underrated cereal? Remember those puffed wheat?
Yeah.
Underrated. You pile about 6 pounds of sugar on those. Oh, my God. Was that ever good?
My mom bought it because single mom. And so we get those big plastic bags of it.
Yeah.
They're like packing peanuts, right?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
So you scoop your bowl into the bag and you get a full bowl of it. But I used to have to put my hand on top of the cereal and hold it down while I was pouring the milk because the milk could just lift all the cereal out of the bowl and it'd be all over the counter.
Yeah.
And just gotta stay in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Puff wheat. Oh my gosh.
I loved puff wheat. Do they still make it?
I'm pretty sure.
Hold on. I'm going to Google this. Puffed wheat
Cereal
bags. Yeah, but now it comes in like the tiny bags.
Oh. Yeah, you used to get the laundry bags for they're huge.
You know what I'm very impressed with your wife?
Uh-oh.
I'm very impressed that the last number of times I've been in her ganachery,
Yeah.
there's no vegan Nanaimo bars.
Yeah.
I must not have been the only one complaining.
Yeah. I think what she's done, though, what she does is because there is a demand for them, they usually phone up and say, hey, could we get a tray of them or whatever it is? So she feeds, sounds like she's feeding a dog. She makes them up for people that request them. So,
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to be serious. I mean, it's not like she's got a 40-seat restaurant or anything like that, but to just keep all that stuff in stock, the food cost, it's like, why do we have 20 boxes of Baker's chocolate? It's like, but
20 boxes of Baker's.
She made homemade chili and then made homemade cornbread. Oh, yes.
Yeah, my phone didn't ring on that one.
No, but you got the photo the other night. Guess what we're having for supper?
I'm going to have to reevaluate our friendship here. Seriously.
That was good.
I'll tell you right now, I'm going back tomorrow for lunch.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Answer.
It's for our audience too.
Okay.
If you go up to a person, okay,
Mhm.
especially a server,
Okay.
and you say, how much tip do you want? They say it doesn't matter. What do you do? What do you tip them?
Okay. If it's me, the asking part's just what's throwing me off. I normally don't, but I know where you're going. It depends. It depends. Like if you don't care, I might have that attitude a bit too. If you don't care, well, then I don't care. But I mean, if the service is good, I'm always going to tip them.
I usually start off with a lecture. I do. I start off with a lecture. And I ask them, I said, and I'll say this, and I've said this to ladies in your wife's, solstice tea and ganachery.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows how to spell ganachery around here. Okay. And I've said, what's your value? How do you value yourself and what you do? Throws them right off.
Yeah.
And then I say, you have value.
Yeah.
You work hard for what you do. So if somebody asks you how much tip that you want, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one young lady said, I want 100%. My bill was $13.29. So I tipped her $13.29.
Right on.
I did. I said, now, does that not make you feel good?
Yeah.
That you thought your value was 100%? And so I gave you 100%.
That's cool.
No, it's not going to happen every time.
No, of course.
But, if they say it doesn't matter, I go for the lowest amount.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, don't undervalue yourself. Yeah, that's a good point. And it never really looked at it from that perspective. That isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I realize it's an uncomfortable question.
It is.
Okay.
For sure.
I totally get that. It is a very, very uncomfortable position. But you know what? I've never worked in the service industry. Never worked at McDonald's or fast food or restaurant or bar or anything like that. But I've always admired it. And they work hard.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I did that back when lived in Whistler, and that's all it was hospitality, right? So worked in kitchens and bars and stuff up there. And it is amazing. And some of the employers, the way that they, don't worry about it, you'll get good tips, but we're going to pay you minimum for doing a fantastic job, right? It's not up to the employer to pay. It's up to the customers to pay the tips to make it for them. I don't know if I could never figure out how that was fair, right?
I agree.
Pay them a good wage. The tip is a bonus, right? You shouldn't be dependent on your tips. And I mean, obviously I knew lots and lots of people that worked in there, and there's people that was their rent, was their tips. It wasn't their wage. Right?
But on the flip side, you get some bartenders, say in Whistler. Okay.
Yep.
Busy place.
Sure.
Or I know a buddy of mine owns a bar in Vancouver. He's paying like $60,000-$70,000 a year to his bartender.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you get a good one.
And that's pretty high.
Yeah. But then the other thing is too, is if you get a good bartender, they'll bring customers in because they're word of mouth. This lady, the lady or the man, whoever the bartender is, yeah, if they're good, that it draws people. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, I remember in
Vegas. Vegas.
So I'm in this private bar in Vegas during my pre-divorce party.
Yep.
Guy said, I walk up to the bar. He says, "What do you want?" So I'd like a vodka 7, please. And we just start chit-chatting. And I'm watching him pour the vodka. And it's in a big red cup, but the clear ones.
Yes.
Okay. Or the clear solo cups.
Yep.
I swear to you not. He put that much vodka in there and about that much 7-Up. And I'm looking at this thing where I'm literally looking at this drink and I'm like, because I'm not a drinker.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm screwed after one.
Oh, yeah.
I am absolutely screwed.
Shoot it.
After this. And I said, how much? He goes, $12.
What?
That's a $20 bill all day long, man.
Easy.
That's a $20 bill. It was probably 4 to 5 shots of vodka in there with a little sprinkle of
7-Up.
7-Up. Right? I was plastered after that.
Oh, bad.
That was the best $12 I've ever spent in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had some property at one of the local lakes up here. Well, I still have property up here. And I bought it back in like 95, I think. And old guy across the street from us, they were the only people on the street. We had our property in the middle of the bush, and then they had this nice little home that was same thing. But yeah, there was only 2 of us on the street at the time.
Yeah.
And we'd rolled up there. This was the second time we were up and doing a bunch of clearing and what have you. And the guy's name was Dick, and his wife, I can't remember. Anyway, comes over, says, "You guys have been working all day," and he was a retired longshoreman. Right? And "You guys, I've been listening to you guys work all day. You need to come on over and meet the wife." And okay, so we went over and being sociable, and walked in the house, and I was sat down, and "Would you like a drink?" And his wife right away goes, "Of course, they all want drinks." Well, I find out after the fact that Dick was a raging alcoholic, right? So he says, "I'm making Caesars." I was like, I like a Caesar.
I like a good Caesar.
Yeah. So he mixes it and did the similar thing. It was a half and half. It was a 50-50 Caesar. I had 2. Then I had to go, we had to leave, obviously, and go back over to the property in the dark and try to find your way. So there was 4 of us, I think, 4 or 5 of us that were all half schnookered, and we're trying to get across the street and walk through the bush. Now, whereabouts is the trail that we got? Oh, man. Woke up the next morning, and it felt like somebody had just pounded me in the forehead with a sledgehammer.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, 2 drinks. I was like, yeah.
It happens sometimes.
Oh, not no more.
Yeah, I can't do it.
No, I don't mind it. I enjoy a drink, but I just, those days of getting rip roaring, as you got older. My son, when he was probably about 24, I was picking him up and because I'm dropping him off at work. So I roll up one morning and I'm like waiting in front of the house and his mother's yelling down the stairs at him or whatever. And he comes stumbling out and he looks like crap. He jumps in my truck and all he does is he jumps in, closes the door and slouches into the door. He's just, and all I could do is smell him. I was like, dude, did you not even have a shower or anything this morning? You were out partying last night? He goes, yeah, I had a shower. And he's like, he's hurting bad. I said, well, what did you do? Oh, we went down to this local pub and it was martini night.
Oh no.
I was like, uh-oh. And he says, yeah, I was drinking green apple martinis. And he's trying not to gag while I'm like, Jesus, man. I said, how many did you have? He goes, 11. I'm like, 11 martinis? He goes, I don't think I'm going to make it, Dad. I said, oh, you're going to work, man. This is self-inflicted.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to work. I says, you're 24. I says, call me at lunch. I guarantee you're going to feel better. I said, so we swung through Tim Hortons or McDonald's and he got some greasy breakfast. Phones me at lunch. He goes, yeah, you were right. I feel great. I was thinking, yeah, just wait till you get a little older. Those hangovers don't go away in 4 hours. It has days or weeks sometimes, right? I was like, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I hear you. All right, people. Big thank you tonight to Cosmic Joe, Area 53, Matt, Richard, T-Bones ×2, Mr. Coffee, Tony Levira, and let's see if there's anybody else that I missed. No, that's Deborah Rooney. Deborah Rooney with a lovely super chat there as well. Thank you, Deborah Rooney. Tomorrow night on the show, we gonna have Swamp Dweller.
I know.
Swampy is back. He's back. And appreciate it. I'm gonna say goodnight to all of you. But we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Don't forget to share the show. Tell your friends. And we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.